Gamergate is, in my mind, this extension of white feminism.
Gamergate.
Anita Sarkeesian.
Gamergate was the of the internet. The attacker was radicalized by Gamergate.
4chan gets involved. Gamergaters then move to harassing any woman in gaming journalism, like Anita Sarkeesian.
Is this entire video going to be just about edgelords saying slurs in video games? No. Would you like a little teaser of what we're going to run into?
The Gamergate era cannot be understudied. The Gamergate era is, to me, a canon event.
Gamergate. Anita Sarkeesian. She made this thing basically criticizing.
To him, a canon event? Excuse me. I consider the Gamergate event part of the Trump cinematic universe officially. Yes, Anita Sarkeesian.
You know what? I'm about to say it. Say it.
I don't say the N-word.
Oh, bump bump. But he did say it. On the bridge.
The N-word is just a word.
Where's the cat?
To be fair, look. He didn't say the N-word, did he? Didn't he sing it also? Is this the Roblox cotton plantation? Okay. I would say there are far worse things than this on Roblox. The children's sex stuff is really in Roblox. I need to look into that. Not like I need to look into buying a child slave. I mean, who's the guy who's been digging on that and pointing that out? What's his name? He's on Twitter. I don't know if he also does videos. Ruben Sim. I need to look at that.
So you can stop working? You monkey!
Sorry, was that a child saying gay monkey?
You monkey!
I can't understand it.
Tenfold gamers, we got a cold black. I repeat, there's a Porsche Primate plane.
Wait, how you even know I black?
Negro, please. By how you breathe, I could tell you's a moon cricket.
Now you see, that's racist and ableist. Cause I actually have asthma.
Listen here, boy. Why don't you go play some 2K or GTA? This here might be out of your league.
Sir, this is Mario Kart.
This ever happened to you? Well, you may be entitled to
some copium. Cause racism is to gaming what Yoko Ono was to John Lennon.
Why did this video get recommended? The agony here is just it's meme crusted. We have the doom music. We have copium. Even the offensive names for black people. He was actually including that because it's a meme, technically, not because it's relevant to the video.
My big and be them women, them and man, them, listen here. For many folk them of the palm persuasion, racism is limited to obvious incidents, such as the litany of gamer words littered throughout the intro of this video.
The gamer word. They call them gamer words, my nigga. Like,
but what if I told you that it's a system? From Halo 2, online lobby.
They call them gamer words. It's facetious.
Where I would get called different slurs in different languages to the very game mechanics and design. Like, look at this mask.
Wait, game mechanics?
Like, seriously, look at the mask, lip and nose.
What have I got?
They did not just go ooga booga and then start playing African polyrhythms.
I'm pretty sure they didn't. I'm pretty sure you're right, they didn't.
Like, seriously, look at the mask, lip and nose.
What have I got?
They did not just go ooga booga and then start playing African polyrhythms.
Y'all really had my arshy playing in.
I don't hear a polyrhythm. I hear
Nintendo 64, your buttermilk. What was supposed to be a reprieve from.
Like, I'm not hearing one against another. I'm just hearing one rhythm. I want to see that. Can I please see a racist mechanic, though? I want to. No, I don't mean like someone who works on cars who's racist. I'm sure you can find many. I mean, like, the game mechanic? Is he gonna bring out the red guard in Elder Scrolls 3, having a lower intelligence than the other humanoids?
The soul-crushing nature of capitalism, the rapture that is white supremacy. Instead of gaming being a migration from the mundanity of
Wait. The rapture?
modern life, it was an extension for we people who are darker than blue, or even a part 2 of the misogyny that women and femdom face.
I saw the
workplace,
Resi 5.
and a constant erasure or even existential dread for the queer folk them who, if lucky enough to find themselves in these games, they won't make it to the 3rd cutscene due to the bury a gays trope.
Due to the trope. The trope's existence causes that to happen, rather than it being an instance of that trope. None of these people have actually found themselves in a game. There's a character who canonically has the same sexual orientation as them. I don't know. I don't see someone in a game being like me as good or bad. In fact, if I played a game and there was someone where I was like, he's just like me, I would probably stop playing and just think that's weird. I don't want that. It's not objectively a good thing to have happen. 2, it can subjectively be repulsive and not something you want. It's not something you're lucky to have happen necessarily, unless you as an individual particularly want that.
Oh well. My prince.
Well, he doesn't even get a kiss goodbye, though.
I would never go after the most marginalized class in the world.
Go
gamers,
after.
without some nuance, which is what I found in droves when researching this video. Whether it be the Black Oasis of the fighting game community.
Fighting games are
The
black.
Black Oasis.
Very black.
Like if you look at the top fighting game players from America, they're all black. I am a semi-pro Tekken player. I played pros, and they
From America, sure.
put I ain't gonna lie.
Or the enabling of my disabled folk them to engage with their reality in ways that society forbade.
I think of
Hang on. Can we... Should we... Should we watch a fighting game clip? I don't know what the donkey censor means. I know people thought Donkey was black. I know people thinking Donkey was black was a meme. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know much about Donkey. I need to hide this momentarily. No spoilers. Here's a video we have to watch quickly.
Know me as low tier God. What's that?
A classic clip. They said the fighting game community is like a black oasis. It's black. But even the fighting game community is not safe for black people. We're going to... Trigger warning, we're going to see a black man get brutally abused. In the fighting game community.
Tell us a little bit about what the hell is going on here, man.
First off, I played this has-been online with his dad jeans. Played him online. We did a...
Dad jeans are built to last.
So the original score was 5-3. And then he wanted to keep playing. It was a set, an original set is 5, first to 5, right? That's what sets are, correct? He wanted to keep playing. I said, you know what, I'm going to keep playing this dude's Blanca. Okay, the final score, 2
Blanca!
But it was a troll session. Original score 5-3. So I went on Twitter, called this guy out, called him a has-been, called him a face, Charles Manson, anything you could think of. This dude looks like a zombie out of The Walking Dead. Then he comes here dressed like he got his outfit out of Target. So, as simple as that, I made
This
a
is
video.
the rare
first guy
8-year-old
I could think of
censorship.
on why gamers were single was Viscount. This dude looks like he lives in his basement. He looks like he never gets sun. He could
To be
possibly
fair,
a fucking vampire.
The
So,
roast is
after
hitting,
that, he goes
to
on
be
Twitter,
fair.
He starts e-thugging. You don't know me. As simple as that. You could call me a bitch online all you want, but in real life, this isn't a game. As simple as that. You say it to my face right
It is though. It just
All right,
presumably fucking Street Fighter.
I'm sorry. I'm getting a little... You're getting too high. And that's it. That's it. And Jay is popping off. He is popping off right now.
And look, I got one more thing to say. So, there's going to come a point when you forget about what happened, and you're going to want to come back at me. And you're going to want to wash the taste of my out of your mouth.
Now the funeral is over, and all the tears are dried up.
Just to illustrate that even the fighting game community is not a safe space. Okay?
The disabled folk, them, like folks that like can't get out into a lot of physical spaces because they're literally marginalized to the point like where architecture is preventing them from getting into spaces.
You know, when we think about like how ableist like a lot of these gaming spaces are, right? I remember going to like one of these esports tournaments, and it's a beautiful facility. The first question I said, I was like, if we had one of our players and our athletes that was in a wheelchair, how would they get to this stage? And nobody had like even considered that. I'm like, do we have enough ramp?
Wait, but was there one? It presumably wasn't a surprise which orgs would be competing and who signed to the orgs. How would we... They didn't even think about what they would have needed if the venues already provide it. I would imagine like major venues would have something themselves, maybe, but also, hang on.
You know, do we have access, you know, to get like to these spaces? And they didn't even think about that.
And even how gaming allows for folks with...
What? Hang on. What tournament or whatever it was?
Going to like one of these esports tournaments, and it's a beautiful facility.
She went to one of these esports tournaments, and it's a beautiful facility. Which one? Where? Which one? What do you mean?
The first question I said, I was like, if we had one of our players and our athletes that was in a wheelchair, how would they get to this stage? And nobody had like even considered that. I'm like, do we have
And
enough
who did you
ramps?
ask?
Do we have access, you know, to get like to these spaces? And they didn't even think about that.
And even...
Who didn't? Like an organizer? Did the venue not have anything to help people with the stage? The venue as a venue, as in that the organizers wouldn't have needed that, or what? And was there anyone who would need that?
Even how gaming allows for folks with gender...
Because that scenario we're given doesn't actually tell us it wasn't, or it wouldn't have been accessible.
dysphoria to find themselves through their avatar.
I think gaming has really been that beautiful space that has allowed people to really be who they are. I had an
It depends. Oh, right. Because the venue wasn't necessarily an esports venue. 100%, like, because those are somewhat rare. It could have been, you know, a venue being used that time for esports. It could have been something that had pools, I guess. But the thing is, we haven't been told what the it was. So her not getting an answer could be meaningless, or it could mean something. But we've been given no details. And
article, in the Journal of Lesbian Studies that talked about how like, Black queer folks and Black trans folks, you know, they aren't able to be out in their lives. You know, they had to, you know, they were misgendered in their physical world, but like
Black lesbian identity development and community building in Xbox Live. That's out of the frying pan and into the fire, by the way.
in the gaming space, they could tell people who they are, and then people respect them for that. You know, you can kind of create whatever identity you want, and if it's more aligned with like who you are, people can do that inside the gaming space. In text-based chat or voice-based communities, you know, we have found, you know, these different spaces of like protection, you know, for our own identities. I remember having like this conversation, you know,
circle of protection in Xbox Live.
With this one, you know, trans girl, you know, and she was talking, she was like, you know, I can't tell my family about any of this, you know, but like in gaming, I'm able to do and be, you know, the fullness of who I am inside this space. And I thought that was.
Okay, but also consider, what if you piss someone off and then they tell your family? I don't know. I think for that person, the safety of a magical gaming safety circle space is actually being oversold significantly, to be honest.
Like really dope. In workplaces and in school, you know, we have to hide those aspects of ourselves.
Alternatively, hey, I also was a black trans woman on Xbox Live.
Why in today's episode of Everything is Racist, no, I'm not being facetious, literally everything, I want to investigate why, despite the good of gaming, is it a matrix for becoming a bigot? Is it a chicken or the egg insofar as the games themselves
Elliot Roger,
the existing PewDiePie, cishet white man them, or do they corrupt the communities themselves?
Is this
People make
Kufu's
memes
delivery
about,
service?
Like the Modern Warfare 2 lobbies and stuff. but like it was like a very real thing.
Old school Call of Duty lobbies rivals the clan and how racist that is. Okay, you got some 12-year-old white boy with a high-pitched voice. We call them
It is now as
slickers,
well.
and they would use the hard R every 15 seconds
In public lobbies, I
don't put a 12-year-old saying the N-word on the level of dealing with the KKK, no matter how many 12-year-olds there are. TBH. Also, last year when I was playing Call of Duty, it was still like that. I don't know what people
experienced just a lot of like, I guess it would be qualified as like edgy humor.
They get trash at the game, then they get racist. Hey, you cousin your cousin.
And it was all just kind of like accepted at that point.
Any fellow racists in this lobby?
Yeah.
You know it, man.
The fact that it's hypothetical.
That sounds like a joke, though. That one, wait.
There's no victim of the crime.
It's all like edgy humor. There's no difference.
All epicenter events like Gamergate was the of the internet, in how it irrevocably changed IRL and URL interpersonal relationships and discourse themselves.
You are extremely intensely mentally ill if the Gamergate hashtag changed your real life interactions with people. You're just a broken human being. You're done. You're finished. Like, you... What? Like, I think you have to accept that you're just totally... If that's true for you, you're just broken. Just into the trash. You're done.
August of 2014, Depression Quest game dev Zoe Quinn receives violent harassment after the game's release. Ex-boyfriend Iran Yorni creates false narrative
Iran Yorni?
that Quinn is sleeping with game journalists for good reviews of the game. There is no evidence of this. The journalist never even reviewed the game in any formal capacity. 4chan gets involved, making more...
No, he gave it positive coverage. He didn't review it. He promoted it in a piece. What the f*** are you talking about? Why would you not just say, you can still tell the truth and not lie by omission?
more violent threats against Quinn under false pretenses. Adam Baldwin creates the...
Also, I read Zoe Quinn's book. It's way worse than Aaron Gajoni made it sound. Am I allowed to say what you can figure out by combining her book and some other things? Does she admit to being in a relationship? That was never in question, Ashrad. Why not? I will couch this, okay? It looks very much like said journalist also paid for a medical procedure. Let's say that. A medical procedure that is detailed in her book. Just so you know. Also, I would suggest that even if he hadn't made any coverage, relationships between people who cover an industry and people who work in that industry, to me, that's a no. To me, that's a no. Because even if you don't cover their stuff, it potentially means that you not covering their stuff is out of bias. Warps you. You shouldn't have... Literally billions of people you could date in the world. You do not have to date someone who works in an industry you cover and need to be uncompromised in your coverage of.
#Gamergate. Gamergaters then moved to harassing any woman in gaming journalism like Arnita Sarkeesian.
Arnita Sarkeesian.
Then moved to harassing any woman in gaming journalism like Arnita Sarkeesian.
Arnita Sarkeesian. Harass all women in games journalism? You can't even name one! You can't even name one. Point 2. Anita was never a games journalist. She never performed journalism. She was more of a cultural commentator. Which you could say falls under journalism, but for the purposes of the Gamergate hashtag, no. Bro, I love this video. I love this video. How many thousands of people believe that her name is Arnita Sarkeesian? Oh, My favorite video games journalist. I need a cesarean. What was fun as well in Gamergate is male journalists got far more flack than female journalists or female figures in gaming, but the women who were using Gamergate to get attention, to be like martyrs, were going. Well, when was it? What time was it when they went off it? Was it Jason Schreier? They went off at him trying to say, "Yo, you're taking the attention away from the women who are the true victims." When Jason Schreier got more than Anita Sarkeesian, which is hilarious. It's hilarious. I love that all these male journalists got so much and they had to pretend like they weren't or just shut up about it because they'd get on. That's so good. I do like that. I do like that, and that it enabled the torture of these guys far better for it to work like this.
This includes a mass shooting threat that caused her to have to cancel events. Gamergate.
Did we see that one? It includes a threat that was considered not credible, and I believe even by the venue itself didn't want to stop. She chose, in the face of it being seen as not credible and not a reason to stop it, she chose to stop, right?
Supporters decide that anyone who can be considered an SJW to be an immediate threat to gaming.
What does that even mean? I don't even know what that means.
Feminists triggered an SJW getting owned compilations on YouTube boom into the hundreds of millions of views. Young boys watch these and then become radicalized by the alt-right propaganda.
But they're real. What if it's literally a video of some like lady with bright colored hair screaming? I don't know that that's alt-right propaganda, unless you consider anyone who is anti-you to be all right. It's sure propaganda if you're stitching up a bunch of videos to make people feel a certain way, but it's anti-feminist propaganda. That includes what, half the world? Probably a lot more than half the world, and a lot more than half the world if we actually consider everyone. Looks like a sloth. Looks like the Ice Age sloth, to be fair.
And the compartmentalization necessary for marginalized folks to be in community with those who deny their own humanity.
Deny their humanity? How does laughing at screaming like bright colored hair people deny the humanity of brown people? What in that summary, demented as it is, talking about Anita Sarkeesian, what about that paints a picture of people who deny the humanity of minorities, even then?
Up in the late 90s was a weird time to get into gaming as a Black woman in America, especially in the Deep South. I was getting picked on in middle school for having a Sonic Adventure and Sonic Advance guidebook with me, reading that stuff.
It was getting picked on at school for screaming about the color of Sonic's arms.
I was the only chocolate chip in the whole cookie. The only chocolate chip. And I still tried to fit in, but I could still feel I was being othered. And this time it was not just because of my hobbies. Something else was, a little different.
Wait, I think I'm just misunderstanding, but is she saying she was discriminated against first because she was a gamer and then because of her race?
Or put in a position of, I really, really want to...
Like in life, or...
fit in, and I'll do anything to fit in. You find yourself in less than desirable places.
The sky is blue. The grass is a delightful shade of green.
The sky is green, though. That's green. Don't gaslight me. That sky is green.
Leaves are falling from the sky in autumn, depending on where in the world you are. And as nature demands, the gaming industry is as racist as hell. You don't need little old me to tell you that.
The industry?
Dance, little monkey, dance. As a matter of fact, You don't have to delve too deep in the internet to expose the amalgamation of isms within gaming and inherently biased developers, marketers, and those who purchase, play, and...
Wait, game developers are 4% indigenous? That's insane. That's real high. Yeah, I have no idea what game that is. Presumably some kind of point and click.
And form the basis of the consumer base.
The middle class back then,
but also
I mean, even more than it is now, was like very
I can't pause it. Racial breakdown of game developers. Where? In America? Source, Statistica, 2021. Game developers where? It's gotta be US, right?
And those who purchase, play, and form the basis of the consumer base.
The middle class back then, I mean, even more than it is now, was like very white. Gaming was kind of a luxury item even back then, and almost exclusively bought and played in like white suburbia. This was like 20-30 years after the whole white flag.
Wait, it says worldwide? Oh, when you look it up, it says worldwide. Wait, worldwide? More Hispanic game devs than East Asian? No, this is that can't be right. During a 2021 survey, 75% of responding game developers stated that they were white, while only 9% of respondents reported being Hispanic. Survey presented to who? How many respondents? 803 respondents! This is unbelievable. No shot. Just for your entertainment. Distribution of video game developers worldwide as of April 2021 by ethnicity. Region worldwide. Number of respondents 803. Could you please tell me how you got those 803 as well? This is demented. Also, yeah, true. You could select up to 3 ethnicities. It's hidden. It's hidden. I can't see stuff. GDC conference attendees? Where does it say? Is there somewhere I can get my hands on this information? Oh, you're going to try and find this for me? Thank you, Siffy. You're out of your... Sample size 803. More Hispanic game devs worldwide than East Asian. How did they distribute the survey? Like, someone keeps saying GDC attendees, but I don't see that. And I just get the graph, that's it. Oh, let's see if he finds it. If he finds it, we can jump back and see what the hell's going on there.
An inherently biased developer.
Wait, source Statistica. What we have here is Statista. Did he just write the wrong name, or is that something else? It would be a huge coincidence if it was. Same number is true. But what if there's a Statistica website that has the full details? Do you think gaming companies should integrate cryptocurrency payments or NFT mechanics into their games? A survey conducted during the latest GDC. True. Yeah, maybe that's where they're getting it from. GDC, truly the most representative of all samples of worldwide game devs.
Marketers, and those who purchase, play, and form the basis of the consumer base.
The middle class back then, I mean, even more than it is now.
Presumably late 90s? Or he doesn't mean Gamergate, surely.
It was like very white. Gaming was kind of a luxury item even back then, and almost exclusively bought and played in like white
video games. Because gaming's more than video games. Gaming is a much larger category.
Suburbia. This was like 20-30 years after the whole white flight thing, I think.
This is a residential street in southwest Atlanta. Not long ago, all the persons who lived here were white. But recently, a few Negro families moved in, and a scene too familiar in other areas of Atlanta was repeated.
We have to talk about things like white flight, right? That suburban context that you're talking about is white flight.
The white residents started moving out. For sale signs went up. The street became what is known as transitional. That state.
How does that affect you got to have a good argument for why that affects you in gaming. If you're in a room playing games, no. The taxes you're going to miss out on from white people ditching because they don't want to pay for school for black people, that's not going to, like, affect your gaming.
Age when Negroes are moving in and white people are leaving.
Back in the day, we were all on farms, and industrialization happened. Then we went to cities, started working like in factories, and white folks were in those spaces too. But when black folks, especially with in the United States context, you know, when the migration like from the south like to the north like happened, and you know from rural areas to like urban areas happened, you know, white folks was like, we don't want to be around these niggas.
Soon this street may...
Twitch admins, that's a black woman saying it. She can, okay? She wasn't using it as an insult towards anyone.
...be resegregated, all grow. The Atlanta Planning Department has warned that if this trend continues, it's just a matter of time until Atlanta will become an island of Negroes surrounded by a sea of white suburbanites.
We talk about white flight just like we talk about like gentrification, policies that impacted that, the government programs that enabled, you know, those things to happen, even also stripped away the like black growth, black mobility, like to really like, you know, develop like this, like a strong black middle class. Like what was happening was white folks also took their money, they took their businesses, they took their companies. That moved to suburbanization, you know, white folks really had like this individualistic like mindset also. And we see that in a lot of things. So we see that in conversations like around like competition, that there are a very individual like mindset.
Yeah, it's good.
That kind of reflected like in black folks, but to me, and for a lot of folks, you know, a lot of scholars that write about this, you know, that's like a settler colonial like mindset. You know, that's like,
oh no, oh no. Isn't most justification of colonialism on the basis of viewing yourself as a collective and needing to do it for the good of your group? If you're trying to do apologetics for it, right? What the f do you mean? Also, I wonder if he's going to have the author of a paper. There was a paper I read trying to argue that Frogger indoctrinated people into a capitalistic mindset through promoting individualism. And it was this paper that tried to say Konami's an American company and that Frogger you play as one frog. Hey guys, the people who take on an individualistic mindset do good and the people who don't do bad. This means individualism is bad.
White supremacist like mindset, you know.
Suburbia specifically contributes a lot to, I think...
White supremacist mindset? Hold on.
Scholars that write about this, you know, that's like a settler colonial like mindset. You know, that's like white supremacist like mindset, you know.
Suburbia
You cannot be enslaved because you, as an individual, have a right to freedom. Is that bad? No matter your group association, you could be ostracized from any category. You do not need to be under a protected category to have these rights. You, by virtue of being a human being, have these rights as an individual, no matter what. Is that bad?
Specifically contributes a lot to, I think, how the gaming community was fostered. As a kid growing up in suburbia, you will at best have one or two friends that are close enough to walk to. Most of your contact with the outside world is through these consoles. And again, these consoles are also primarily composed of other middle class, like young white men.
Is that real? White kids in the suburbs will at most know one or two other kids? That can't be right. Policans, well said. What is school? Are they home? Are they all homeschooled? And sorry, can we listen to that again? Did he say most of your contact with other children will be through games?
As a kid growing up in suburbia, you will at best have one or two friends that are close enough to walk to. Most of your contact with the outside world is through these consoles.
Most of your contact with the outside world is through these consoles? Are we talking about like early days of settling the US? Like before any schools were established? Sorry, like I'm American, but I left America when I was like 5 or 6. Schools have been like a thing in the US for a long time, right? And it's most kids go to them, yes?
And again, these consoles are also...
Why the fuck is he nodding? What do you mean? As a kid in suburbia in the US, I'm imagining the like long street, house, other long street, house. You'll know 1 to 2 people, and then the rest of your contact with the outside of the world is through consoles? Why the fuck is the guy on the right nodding?
Primarily composed...
Wait, the guy on the right doesn't seem to be American. Does he believe this?
...of other middle-class, like, young white men.
That isolated suburban experience is not too typical for black folks. Like, that edgelord identity isn't allowed for black children because, like, our elders would be like, nah, don't do that. Somebody come and get us out of that. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to be allowed to go down that route too early. We're going to take you to church.
But adopts a...
For some that's true, and then for some white people that's also true. This sounds extremely anecdote-pilled. This seems like people are projecting again, yeah. As has been said multiple times in chat, this is how it was for me, therefore this is how it was for my whole demographic. Or the whole demographic of which I am a part. No, this is insane. I hope the guy on the right whose video this is stops after these interviews and just says, like, I apologize for subjecting you to this insane schizophrenia.
A lot of their tendencies. I mean, I'm one of them. I think what that does, what suburbia does alongside that, it turns, like, racism and any sort of, like, bigotry, like...
Hypothetical.
Yes! Racism for them is a bonding practice. In their heads, they're not being racist. It's just, we like to say and make fried chicken and watermelon jokes. We don't hate black people. And then you get a black person in there and they're calling you and making chicken and watermelon jokes. And you're like, hey, can you stop? And they're like, what? We're just joking. I'm like,
when you are not exposed.
Can we have like a recording of that happening? There must be recordings of this occurring.
To other like races, other cultures, other struggles.
Well, I believe if we're just talking out our asses, no, Siffy, it happens. Why does he think it happens? We're being shown stuff. They've got a standard of like backing it up. Back that up as well, because what I think is much more likely to happen is black person steps in. They're probably going to be a lot more aggressive towards them. Then I don't believe they'll be like, oh, it's not racist, we don't mean it. I imagine if you're in gaming, they're probably going to call you slurs and say all sorts of racist to flame you. I believe they'd be way harsher and not just confused.
To a kid like that, it's basically the same as like a curse word. We're like, you know you're not supposed to say this. And then you say it, and then that's the funny part.
At its rawest, the gaming industry casually reinforces Eurocentric whitewashed historical beauty standards through character customization and designs. While it can be a breeding ground for Nazis and other nationalists to fantasize about alternative timelines and to harass...
Like, it's probably what happens way more is they're attacking a black person, so they say racist stuff, and then they'll be like, oh, look, I'm just doing what would hurt most, or what could hurt most, or the most extreme. I don't hate black people, I'm just attacking this one black person. I think it happens way more than, like, this imagined group of white people whose, like, main social bonding is making jokes about black people, and then when a black person shows up, they're surprised that they don't like that. I don't know how often that happens.
Players within
probably does, but not very much.
Marginalized communities.
It sounds like you think the end game is that whites should become a minority.
I guess, like, I just don't understand how you think that, like, being white is such an important part of being an American.
It's a principle. Why is it bad that they remain a majority then?
I've already said why, because you're talking about restricting immigration from a ton of different areas in order to
Why not? Why do we have to take immigration from all these areas?
Because it helps grow the size of the economy and it brings talent in from other areas to continue to benefit the entire country.
It benefits the global elites. That's the only people it benefits. Let's just say that we admit a Mexican immigrant to the country. But if swaths of illegal immigrants pour across the border, we can't do anything about it under pain of being called racists. When that Mexican immigrant steps into America and sees that nothing's changed because the Mexicans have brought their Mexican culture with them, he says, what the heck?
For many, however, Games are a method of igniting their interest in history. Achieve creative.
Okay. But like, I don't understand the relevance of that clip to what's being talked about right now. What was the point of that clip? Is it JonTron is a gamer? How does it
self-imposed goals and experiment with gender away from prying, bigoted eyes.
I am a lifelong gamer. I grew up in rural Kentucky. Some people see that kind of gaming as like very isolated. You're on your own. We were very communal, like in our gaming, like from jump.
Just the general communal nature of Black people. If you live in a city.
The what? Community nature of Black people? Why is he talking about Black people like he's talking about like dogs? JonTron very obviously spent a bunch of time looking at poll memes and thought that would prepare him for a debate. With absolutely zero skepticism regarding what he was consuming.
In our gaming, like from jump.
Just the general communal nature of Black people. If you live in a city, you got cousins all over that city. You probably got cousins whose house you could walk to. We're all collectively organizing to raise and take care of families.
We have communal lives. You know, we think about
all where? Maybe your family, but what the fuck are you talking about?
like even like our households, like it's intergenerational. Like when my mama got sick, my mom moved in with me. I'm like, that's just kind of like how we live.
This always confused me, like watching.
White people do this too. This isn't. What the f? Why is this being presented as being, oh, this is what black people do, unique from other people. It's our nature. To quote him, the nature of black people. What are you talking about?
Home alone, and they would see their cousins and it would seem like an event. It would be like a special occasion to see grandma. And it's like, I see my grandmother every weekend.
We have friends that came over. You know, I had a homie that had the Nintendo 64. I had the Sega. Somebody had the Dreamcast. Somebody else had the GameCube. You know?
Yeah, that was also my experience. I think this was kids in the late 90s and early 2000s. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. They're not describing black people. They're describing non-immigrants. It's immigrants who are going to tend not to have so much family near them. It's early generation immigrants. They're saying are f***ed compared to them. I didn't have family all around me because I immigrated into the UK. I would have had people related to me around me if I hadn't. The thing they're describing as great and good is what you have if you don't emigrate. And the people around you don't emigrate. Uh-oh, did they mess up? Are they doing a discrimination here, or does that not count?
No, because, you know, we couldn't have them all. You know, so we coordinated our efforts, you know, to make sure that at least the whole neighborhood had at least all those consoles.
A lot of the Call of Duty, definitely Madden and 2K, and these are communal games.
It's no wonder that that's also reflected in our gaming practice.
Well, when I was a kid, especially before online gaming was huge, every game was a communal game. Every game was. Me and a group of friends would be together playing Final Fantasy together, a single-player game.
This is too, of like, you know, we're not going to just be gaming by ourselves. You know, we're going to be gaming with everybody.
I think the way black people engage with gaming.
Who doesn't do that? And especially now, people are always on Discord. They're on other forms of social media. Doing that shit just online. It's happening more now. And it happened, every race did it. What the f is being talked about here?
Reflects the way black people have engaged with community.
Gaming always feels like isolated to me.
I'll never forget, I had one white friend, he had games I had never, what is Final Fantasy?
Yo.
You have brothers, why do you have so many one-player games? I'll be so, it was dope. I was like, this looks really cool. When is my turn to play? The way suburbs work for white people is this is my place. This is my household.
It's like fascinating then to see them in like the esports space. That's them trying to practice being communal. They are still
what the f
very like isolated and alone and individualistic. They ain't got it. And
wait, you mean white people? Sorry, esports is white people practicing interaction? But we just had a whole section, well, we had a whole little clip about fighting games being the black game. You don't have teams. It's you facing off against one other person. Well, typically you don't have a team. You can do team battles, obviously.
To see them in like the esports space, that's them trying to practice being communal. I was
like, this looks really
Sorry,
cool.
We've had the communal nature of black people discussed by him, and then this lady says that white people are trying to practice being communal. So the image painted here is that inherently black people can interact with each other, but white people need to practice that. That's like, what the I would instantly be banned. I think I'd get banned for saying the same thing they did. I don't think I'd even need to flip the races.
Gaming practices too, of like, we're not gonna just be gaming by ourselves. We're gonna be gaming with everybody.
I think the way black people engage with gaming reflects the way black people have engaged with community.
Gaming always feels like isolated to me.
I'll never forget, I had one white friend, he had games I had never, what is Final Fantasy? You have brothers, why do you have so many one-player games? I'll be so, it was dope. I was like.
You can take a different conclusion though. You could argue that, oh, this white person is so communal, he doesn't need the aid of the game being multiplayer, because he just hangs out with his brothers so naturally they can play a single-player game together. Like, what the f*** do you mean?
This looks really cool. When is my turn to play? The way suburbs work for white people is this is my place. This is my household.
It's like fascinating then to see them and.
You're telling me if I show up in your house, you're not gonna ask what the f I'm doing? You're just gonna be like, I'm so communal, this is fine.
Like the esports space, that's them trying to practice being communal. They are still very like isolated and alone and individualistic. They ain't got it, and that's okay. Those kids on those esports teams, they would much rather prefer, to be in their rooms gaming. I'm like, just leave them in their rooms. Their anxieties is high. They stressed out. Everybody watching and look like, don't make them do that.
But far too often,
there are some esports guys with reputations for very much not staying in their room when they should. And perhaps drinking and eating too much. Look. This, I'd say, at least somewhat Hispanic looking, the main Scream Lord in the middle. Being dedicated to a team, because overwhelmingly esports are team-based. Except the one that they mentioned as in the US being predominantly black, fighting games. Overwhelmingly, esports are about team games. Dota, Counter-Strike, Valorant, right? League of Legends. They're about working with the team and being good as a team. They're using esports as their example of these people being hyper-individualistic.
That's them trying to practice being communal. They are still very like isolated and alone and individualistic. They ain't got it, and that's okay. Those kids on those esports teams, they would
on those teams
much rather prefer, to be in their rooms gaming. I'm like, just leave them.
Be in their rooms gaming with their team in their team-based game. Are these people just stupid?
In their rooms, their anxieties is high. They stressed out. Everybody watching and look like, don't make them do that.
But far too often, it is a form for anonymous, friendly.
Really, she's just bashing them as nerds. She's just bashing them as nerds. Like, all these losers who are anxious with a crowd watching them. Blah, 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 blah. You're the person who bullied gamers. You're not the bullied gamer. You're that. Idiot.
Or edgy speak, which is caucus for, casual racism. With most things, problematic behavior is enabled, stemming from developers who deliberately craft narratives in unspecified Caribbean paradises with NPCs who are caricatured stereotypes requiring rescue by the incredibly morally upstanding white saviors.
There's a game called Assassin's Creed Black Flag, where they...
You mean Assassin's Creed, the game where you play an assassin?
Are in the Caribbean, and man, let me tell you, like they really did us dirty.
How you feel about that?
When it comes to Caribbean representation, we're either all weed smoking, gun toting Jamaicans, which I'm not, I'm from the Bahamas, but you think Shark Tale, you think things like even Belly, like black films like Belly, or you even think like GTA, like if you want to get to the games, like GTA has Lil Jacob, and he's like this Caribbean mystical Negro that's just violent and a crime lord and all that.
I'm not
and
a
like,
GTA
when you think
lord,
about
I
like
don't
what
know.
positive or what like nuanced representation of Caribbean culture do you get in anything? There's not many places where I can point to and I'm like, oh, okay, that's me.
The caricature.
There's not many I can point to and go, okay, that's me. There's literally no character I can point to and say, okay, that's me. Join the club. What the f*** do you mean? There's no, why can't there be black YouTubers in my games? What do you want?
Exactly. There's a travesty of me. It's a parody of me. It's a shadow.
Oh, Sebastian!
It's not even a parody of you. It's nothing to do with you.
And then you got the prominent figures in these communities like PewDiePie, JonTron, XQC. You know, when he's not stealing everybody's content.
I'm gonna give it a buck. I'm gonna give it a buck.
I'm gonna get up
I
and
can take my daily check and buy your entire bloodline.
Who also contribute their propagation of certain narratives and normalization of certain behaviors as well as attitudes. PewDiePie, JonTron, and XQC have all been caught using anti-black slurs in front of a very impressionable young audience, as Felix actually claims, an army of 9-year-olds. And they still, unfortunately...
As he actually claims. He actually claims. He admits it. He has an army of under 10-year-olds.
Unfortunately enjoy lingering online acclaim. For you all who expecting a segment on Video Game Donkey, given that...
Guys, I heard PewDiePie say the N-word and now I hate black people. Would you believe me?
You know, I use him as a censor anytime I say the word. Then you... Because Video Game Donkey is obviously a black old woman.
To be real with you,
true.
I don't know how you accidentally say that. Or just like, there's been no situation where I'm angry at a game.
I've accidentally said many, many, many different words in the first 2 hours of this stream.
And I'm just like, I want to say a slur right now, or just I say it without even thinking. When you do something without thinking, it's because you're used to doing it. Yeah,
No.
There's a clip like months later after.
Absolutely not true if you're a streamer. I've said words that I've never even heard before. I've made noises that I've never even heard before. I've meant to say one thing, said an entirely different word, and to me, I haven't even recognized that I said that word. I didn't even recognize that I said it. No. Until you've streamed, talking non-stop, hours every day, I don't know who the this guy is. I assume he must not have done it if he's never done that. This is the esports player they called white. Or rather, at least implied is white by including him in the background. To be fair, that lady presumably did not have anything to do with him being in the background of that clip. He was the focus of the image. Yeah. I'm saying that's on the video. That's on Foreign Man in a Foreign Land.
Little controversy where he almost says it again in a Fortnite game. Him saying that caused people to look back at his former stuff, and then it turns out he made like a lot of Nazi jokes, like an uncomfortable amount of them.
Yeah, and we should respect Nazis and not joke about them. What do you mean? What do you mean Nazi jokes?
He also just had I don't think it was a Nazi uniform, but it was him pretending to be a Nazi for a short clip, similar to the Anita Sarkeesian thing. It went.
Okay, if he did that, is that pro or anti-Nazi? How about if he put shoe polish on his face? Is that also then pro-black person? Is that pro-black propaganda? Or
went from like analyzing gaming as a whole to like the specific...
Wait, that didn't even happen? Let me look this up. Because I'm not a PewDiePie lord. Is it even worse? Like, you know something's wrong when they don't say what it was. He made Nazi jokes. What were they? Literally tell me what it is. You have to tell me. If you say he wore this uniform and like pretended to be a Nazi, oh, why? Like, what was the punchline? What did he do? I don't recognize the uniform, but it doesn't look like any Nazi uniform I've seen. It's got like a golden chicken or something on it. I don't recognize it. Okay. Right. Assuming he did not in another scenario wear a Nazi uniform, because they flicked this picture up before. This is what they're calling a Nazi uniform. An SDAP known for operating out of London, I'm sure. Yeah, good job.
People most famous for it, and it again had this massive defensive response because like PewDiePie was millions of people's childhoods. So like it again felt like another like big personal attack on them.
The common thread between these instances is a gaming industry saturated predominantly by white people who too often exhibit a far inflated senses of importance than deserved.
Like who? Who in the industry does that? Name them. Is he going to name them? The entire industry is saturated. Who? Which ones?
Their newfound power, they are provoked by the inclusion of any demographic outside the narrow focus on able-bodied cishet white mandem. And of course, late-stage capitalism further exacerbates this by naturally
He's talking about the games industry. Name an industry figure. Name someone who works at one of these companies.
Rewarding negative behavior, as the system inherently requires discrimination to thrive.
I'm trying not to drop names on purpose because
you're a coward.
I don't want this to come back to either of us.
Yeah, because you're a coward.
Knew this guy. He sees something in me that kind of affirms the otherness that I have been going through for a bit. So we kind of cling to that attention. I'm in his Discord, and it's like, okay, he streams, it's whatever, it's cool. And
so you have receipts as well.
In trying to fit in so much, I miss microaggressions. I miss slamming women that are half my size for being too fat. And when you're in a dark place already and you're just trying to fit in, it's easy to let those things slide. Because again, when I grew up playing video games, it's easier to cling on to someone that's like, they see me, they want to be around me, and I'll tolerate this just to be around them.
The pathetic threat of boycotts and...
I don't really understand what we just listened to.
It's like, I'm in his Discord, and it's like, okay, he streams, it's whatever, it's cool.
He streams.
And in trying to fit in so much, I miss microaggressions.
Okay. The person she's not naming is someone she made friends with and wanted to fit in with. And because she wanted to fit in so much, she, quote, misses microaggressions.
I miss slamming women that are half my size for being too fat.
Okay. So the guy slammed women that were half her size for being fat. We don't have any details. So this is like a hyper-autistic beyond me misunderstanding of what happens in a social scenario. She's going, logically, if he's calling someone smaller than me fat, he's calling me mega fat. No. What's happening is, he would pick on anyone out-group for anything, and you're in-group. So you're immune to that. That was proof that you're in-group. That's like the opposite of a microaggression.
And when you're in a dark place already, and you're just trying to fit in, it's easy to let
Sorry, that's the only example you have as well?
Those things slide. Because again, when I grew up playing video games...
You've seen the scenario where someone goes, oh, look at that fat ass. And then the friend goes, what the f***, you're smaller than me. And then you're like, nah, mate, you're just big boned, it's fine. Right? He sees you as in-group, he's shitting on out-group. That is you guys being in-group together. You can't let that slide and then go, oh, I was a victim of that. No. You're guilty of that as well. If you think that's wrong, you're guilty of it.
It's easier to cling on to someone that's like, they see me, they want to be around me, and I'll tolerate this just to be around them.
The pathetic threat of boycotts and protests by fragile white racist gamers always work, which adds to why...
What? Sorry, the threat of boycott by gamers always works? Why do games cost £70 then? They never work, because people always buy the stuff. Because they never actually boycott. He better show us an example.
Why they feel so deeply emboldened to continue perpetuating racial hegemony and supremacy within games. Let's look a bit deeper though. Reaction...
Sorry, can we get one example of a boycott that worked? Like what? Against NFTs? Turning the tide of, or at least temporarily making some of the bigger companies hold off, maybe? I can't really think of one that worked though. Paid mods? Yeah, maybe. He didn't say racist gamers. I believe he said racist gamers.
Reactionaries love outrage, which is why racists collectively lost their damn mind when Miles Morales was introduced as the new Spider-Man. Just wait until they realize that Gwen Stacy is a bisexual trans icon. The character...
He's not the new Spider-Man though, is he? I'm not like a 10-year-old or a comic brain autist. Isn't he just another Spider-Man?
Character, design, and developers face constant criticism, reflecting the resistance to further diversifying the superhero video game landscape from the moment Miles Retro Ones left a footprint on the side of the Empire State Building. You don't believe me? Well, thankfully, we have the brilliant Shakespearean rambles of a GameSpot reviewer who remarked that Miles was a hero with
the exaggerated swagger of a black teen.
Whatever that means, man. The uproar surrounding the surprisingly great portrayal highlights the ongoing struggle for inclusivity and representation in the gaming.
Wait, what? Yeah, people ripped the fuck out of that guy. Why are you confusing things? There was a backlash against the guy describing it like that.
The exaggerated swagger of a black teen.
Whatever that means, man. The uproar surrounding the surprisingly great portrayal highlights the ongoing struggle for inclusivity and representation in the gaming industry. And
can we get his... I want to, like, have this guy strapped into a chair with a lie detector test. Whatever the meter is called. Strapped onto him. Do you think Spider-Man is a good game? Polygraph test, yes. He'd be sweating buckets.
Luckily, the majority of consumers genuinely enjoyed the game, and it's since received so much acclaim that games with similar mechanics and physics are always compared to Miles Morales' Spider-Man. But I can't get that verbiage out my head. It's not overtly racist in its use of slurs, and in fact, I actually would prefer that Miles Morales swings differently than Peter Parker.
Yeah, so multiple issues. The guy who said that is no white guy. And what games are being compared to Spider-Man? What game has Spider-Man like traversal? I can think of games with grappling hooks. What games are compared to Spider-Man?
But what makes it seem more threatening is its proper grammar and stellar vocabulary, all of which are used to politely dehumanize and other black men.
Now, for me, I like seeing the visibility of like black folks like in those kinds of spaces, but
Sorry, I'm so confused. Is he saying the exaggerated swagger line? Is this?
Also not one that's like influenced by those to think that that's the only narrative of blackness. You know, that's just like a singular vision of like blackness. Like,
why is the term
mental illness
swagger being associated specifically with black characters?
So he is talking about the exaggerated swagger line. Right. Let me just double check that this is the guy. So the line they're talking about and the prejudice that's behind it and whatnot. This is the guy who said the line? He literally has a afro and he has BLM in his Twitter bio.
You never hear anybody talking about the swag of...
The exaggerated swag comment
You hear swagger a lot when you're describing characters in D&D. Swagger is kind of piratey, old-timey. fantasy more often, probably. For me, at least where I'd come across it. No, I hear swagger used towards white people. I've heard it used towards white people way more than towards black people, in fact.
It's more hate than it deserves. I love that Miles Morales moves completely different than the other one. Somebody in there had to say, hey, I feel like Miles Morales would swing differently than Peter Parker.
You know, we got black uncles as criminals. They went to jail before them, but that's not the only story of like blackness, but that's the only thing that we get. You know, it's like the singular
Excuse
narrative.
me?
It's a limited vision of like black
Oh, I don't have an uncle who went to jail.
lives. And I think that's the danger, especially for a lot of white audiences who don't want to see black folks outside of that.
I love the attempt at black hair.
I would never say that, you know, I hate these stereotypical representations. I just want to see more. You know, when you give us like the uncle that's the pimp, okay, we know the uncle that's a pimp, give us some more. And we have an uncle that's a drug dealer, okay, but give us more, you know, and then they stop right there and think that they have, you know, captured the essence of blackness.
That also gets the absence of black.
Capturing blackness was generally considered to have been a huge mistake. Why do you want us to do it again?
People in the room when the games are being made. There's not enough black people in the room, so when our stories and our depictions...
When people are hyper-focused on representation and want to be seen in a game, like, I want to ask, what would you be like in a game? What would you be like in a game? And then every time they describe something good that is better than them, just be like, nah, that's not you. Just some boring guy talking into a webcam. Why the would you want me in your game? A lot of this is, what, vanity masquerading as a racial issue. That's melted together in their brain and become its own demonic brainstorm.
Are there. It's very shallow, very one-dimensional.
This bias is exemplified in games like Grand Theft Auto Vice City, where the character modeled after Ray Liotta and Tom Vassetti walks upright, while Franklin, the black character, has a distinctive swaggerific gait with a bop in his step that looks like he just dropped a hot pound of mess in his drawers.
Do you think perhaps Grand Theft Auto is heavily referential, as you apparently recognized immediately? It is different games, but it's same studio, same franchise. Do these, what would you call it, archetypes? Do these characters exist in real life? I would say yes.
Like, gaming is an expensive hobby to get into. They used to be like...
Not anymore. When you were talking about 90s, maybe? Now, no. You can play on some junk you can get at a charity store. You can probably dumpster dive to get into gaming.
Kind of more accessible, similar to how movies were with like arcades. But then once like home consoles started getting popular, there was like a big money like barrier to enter the hobby. Consoles cost around the same when adjusted for...
Yeah, if you're a console pleb, just play on PC. Nowadays, play on your phone.
Inflation, but like games, they're $60 now, like big releases, but they were $60 back in the mid-1980s.
Oh no, he is saying it's more affordable, right? Never mind.
If you bought like Aladdin for the NES, that was like the equivalent of $130 now.
But I want to be clear that despite...
Sure, but like, compare it to like getting into boating. Yeah, I just probably agree, chat, with like expensive. If we're talking about gaming's cost as a hobby, what do you compare it with? Other hobbies. Compared with other hobbies, no, it wasn't expensive. They should have grounded it by saying for the average black person it's expensive back then. Or something like that. For the average black family, it's a harder expense. Or just compare the average black family compared to the average white family then. Or something like that. To call it standalone expensive hobby? Yeah, there are other hobbies that aren't.
The downsides, gaming has continuously provided solace to communities like my disabled folk them aforementioned, who have been marginalized by the embedded capitalistic societal structure that prevents them from fully engaging with the world and even themselves. Or games like VR Chat, IMVU, for your veterans out there who actually know about what I'm talking about, and most recently, Roblox, have proven to be suitable meeting grounds for wanting alternatives. I ain't gonna lie.
Roblox is a suitable meeting ground for children and people, is what I'm aware of.
I mean, when Roblox isn't literally trying to recreate some of the most heinous happenings in the last few centuries or grooming children.
Let me get a ring right quick, bro. Yo.
Right now.
Let me see some work, What's good, man? What's good, man? I used to.
One, that's funny. Two, this black content creator used it for content and is doing an exaggerated reaction to deliberately spread this KKK character as a gag.
Get back to work! I said get back to work, blood! Get back to work! Did I say you could stop working? You monkey!
Virtual reality allows people
That's a bit.
to live vicariously through their carefully curated skins that may even come with abilities and emotes like on Fortnite or VR Chat. Modified hardware means that they can be freely customized with inclusive software like sound cues or choosing the avatar's voice, giving young, curious femmes the chance to experiment with things that they are typically gendered out of or feel unsafe to in our current society. A 2006 study analyzed the social interactions of adolescents on the autism spectrum or those with ASD, autism spectrum disorder, whilst playing a massive multiplayer online role-playing game.
Oh, it's literally me in my early teens.
To review the ways in which virtual reality could assist in forming meaningful relationships for those struggling to physically socialize. Researchers concluded that the preconceived notion of gaming didn't stop those with ASD from effectively communicating. In fact, the universal proliferation of technology and boom in MMOs have fostered a welcoming environment to show off skills, form friendships based on completing shared objectives, and a myriad of participatory interactions.
I think this is stupid. I think this is wrong. Something very common with autistic people is that they'll have a special interest. And one of the reasons you might have social troubles as an autistic person, particularly as a young one, is the only thing you want to talk about is the thing you're interested in right now. What if the thing you're interested, though, is a game that other people are also playing, and therefore are highly likely to also be interested in? If that game is your hyperfocus, and you talk about that game, they're going to be receptive to that because there's someone who plays that game. What games do is they function both as the hyper-focus and the special interest and a venue where you're guaranteed to run into people who want to talk about it. That's probably a major element. You need an answer?
Welcoming environment to show off skills, form friendships based on completing shared objectives, and a myriad of participatory interactions.
My parents told me that when I was a baby and they took me in for my checkup, the doctor diagnosed me more or less with autism because of the shape of my head, nothing else. But I was a low-verbal child. I had fewer milestones, and that could have been the abuse that I had under my birth mother.
He's talking about autism, Siffy. I think autism and gender non-conforming, or autism and disabled people, like physically, I guess.
But as I've got,
he said a couple things about accessibility or whatever. No, he's talking about games breaking down barriers. This isn't just about race. This is about race and ability as well.
I'm older, and I look at, especially autism and ADHD in women. I'm over here like, some of those things click. And get it. I'm probably right on the cusp of the spectrum, but you know what? I'm still me. But growing up where I did in the boonies of Mississippi, I didn't really have anyone else to talk to about video games. Because, one, if you can't tell by how I sound, I don't...
Trust me, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. Children in the future will not know what it is like to play a game unspoiled or tainted by other people's opinions. Okay?
Sound, to some people, black enough. And my parents insisted that I speak properly. I had a lot of white comments growing up, like, oh, you must think you're white, oh, you must think you're this. So in addition to already being black, I was being othered. And, just by the fact of I was a black female playing video games when all of the girls my age were playing dolls.
Guys, she's so special.
They may have been playing video games, but I wasn't included because I was a girl. So it's a very othering experience when you grow up in a poor area because my parents weren't affluent. We were really just one missed paycheck from being, having our house foreclosed on.
Many are unaware of this, but at the start of the gaming craze of the 1980s,
so games are amazing. Many games are not amazing, but gaming as a whole is incredible. My life is richer for it, so on and so forth. Yeah? I'd also be fine if gaming just never existed, or if everyone else in the world had access to it, but I didn't. I mean, like, have some perspective, okay? Like a cool thing you want, but can't afford. That's sad, but have some perspective. You can just not play. I'm literally saying I like them. What the? But I'm saying if they didn't exist, like, it wouldn't be an injustice. If I couldn't afford them, that's not like an injustice. I'm not being deprived of. I'm not gonna die. I could find something else. There are way. No, the true take is if I couldn't afford them, it's fine because I'm so cool that companies will continue to just give me their games. Actually, you know what? Black woman in the 90s can't afford games. Skill issue. Just be so cool games companies give you games. I did it. And I do have autism.
Women and femmes constituted over
Bunny, please don't kill me.
25% of the market, as the stereotype was that the arcades belonged to the boys, which relegated girl gamers to their homes to play Atari. This sneaky branding technique definitely cut off the developers' noses to spite their faces by not cultivating an inclusive environment that would bridge the gender gap, increase sales, and set the tone for the next 3 decades of gamer culture.
Gaming was like kind of gender neutral before the game crash of 1983.
I don't agree that they cut off the nose to spite their face in the long run. I think if male and female gamers had been hyper-integrated, I think the male gamers would have had a really good influence on the female gamers, and we wouldn't have such hyper-predatory mobile games that are so successful. I think they actually benefit from more of a split because I think the insight it gave them and the mobile side, being able to experiment with women there has been huge.
Like back then it was like Pong. Like Pong is not appealing to any specific gender. After everything kind of fell apart with like a lot of bad games being...
I think you're wrong because it's a 1v1 hyper competitive style game. I think Pong is more masculine. You're thinking like, oh, it doesn't have a Barbie or a race car in it. Yeah, but it's 1v1 competitive game. You don't think that has any gender element to it at all?
Made and PCs becoming more popular. Nintendo kind of revived the whole gaming industry in the US. While researching for how to like market, they found that boys tended to play games more than girls did. Mm-hmm. And so they decided to shift their marketing to just specialize entirely in men, like men and boys. Everything in gaming for basically decades was designed specifically with men in mind. I could definitely see how there is a lot of inherent misogyny in that. Even people working in the industry, it was almost entirely just like, white dudes.
Why would there be inherent misogyny? Whether there was or wasn't, why would there be inherent misogyny in shifting your marketing towards targeting men? Why would that necessitate misogyny? I don't agree.
The white dudes in the rooms making those games, like, they probably weren't trying to do anything bad necessarily. They just literally didn't know what they were doing in regards to that.
And amidst the pervasive high aroma of Axe body spray, there was a silver lining. As usual, women play a pivotal role in the marketing enhancement, constituting approximately 48% of the United States. The Gamergate episode was marked by an uptick in disturbing incidents, such as death.
The police just came by. Husband and I are going somewhere safe. Remember, Gamergate isn't about attacking women. I should have thought about this before the stream. There was actually a show made about this. It is not the Law and Order show. there was a Brianna Wu episode of some sort of real crime reenactment thing in which it was revealed what the exact threat sent to Brianna Wu was. Oh, it might be in Brianna Wu's Wikipedia. Right. Regarding Brianna Wu being threatened, in early 2017, the FBI closed its investigation of the matter. The FBI identified 4 men who sent threats and obtained confessions from 2 of them, one of whom stated that they had sent the threat as a joke, but understood it was a federal crime to send a threatening communication to anyone and will never do it again. The U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts declined to prosecute, giving no specific reason. Brianna Wu was livid that this is how things went. The threat in this instance, in a show about Brianna Wu, with input from Brianna Wu, was revealed to have been the Navy SEALs copy pasta, which I imagine had something to do with there being no interest in prosecuting it. If you're not familiar, we can have a quick look at what Brianna Wu was sent. Goes something like this. What the f*** did you just f***ing say about me, you little bitch? I'll have you know I graduated top of my class in the Navy SEALs, and I've been involved in numerous secret raids on Al-Qaeda, and I have over 300 confirmed kills. I am trained in guerrilla warfare, and I'm the top sniper in the entire U.S. Armed Forces. It's that kind of thing, it just goes on and on. It ends with, you're dead, kiddo. This was sent to Brianna Wu, and this is the threat that she left her house over. Just so you know, for context.
The R word.
This is a totally serious tweet that is not just someone stirring shit, by the way. This is not someone just trying to stir shit on the internet. At FemFreak, the main reason why all the harass 2 women is because of all the dumb feminist who want to be superior. Hope you die. From Aaron Atkins on Twitter.
Doxing and assault threats over titles with plots.
Oh, sorry, I've skipped the Sarg tweet because it was
plots that deviate from
it was too fast.
Doxing.
The example of doxing is Sargon of Akkad sharing a Pterodax dox tweet. What a esoteric screen cap. You can only get this screen cap by transporting yourself into the Mansus during sleep and materializing it. Incredible deep cut. Who was doxed here? I don't know.
And assault threats over titles with plots that deviate from the white cis hetero narrative. But that didn't deter women.
Assault threats over these titles. Like, what's an example? Yeah, I read the comment below. It's a Pterodax.
Such as death,
tweet.
The R word, doxing.
The tweet beneath says Pterodax, but he's sort of on our side, isn't he? Pterodax was just a guy who'd around and stirred, of which there were many people. Oh my god. This is a screen cap by Sarah Butts. I haven't seen this avatar in so long. See the box to reply, the avatar on the left? That is it Sarah Butts this person is called? Is that the person with the fantasy about their, like, cousin? The, like, 4-year-old cousin or something? Is this the Right, so this guy's citing, like a self-admitted wannabe child. Cool.
And assault threats over titles with plots that deviate from the white cis hetero narrative.
Show us an example. Assault threats? Yes, 100%. There were a bunch of assault threats all over the place. Assault threats over titles that deviate from that? Where? Where's one?
You little bitchy, I'll have you know
You little bitchy. Bitchy spaghetti. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service, X-Maced. Thank you for your service.
But that didn't deter women from buying en masse and supporting creators.
The Gamergate era.
There is a guy, Stanton. Richard Stanton, I was right. Is it Richard Stanton? Let me find him. Yo, it's fucking here! So there was a game journalist called Richard Stanton who decided to post about Gamergate. Every Gamergater is a pathetic excuse for a man. And that is an invitation. Come at me. I mean physically. You're all loser little boys. Seriously, bring it. I'm a 6'2" Glaswegian that will knock your pathetic to the floor. Threaten all you want. In real life, you are nothing. Come at me. Come at me, little boy. I'm a 6 inch, sorry, to be clear, he wrote 6'2" Glaswegian. 6 inch, he's 6 inches tall, as per his tweet.
The Gamergate era cannot be understudied. It was
Traumatized. Traumatized by tweets, let's go.
This was the first time people felt large-scale, like a quote-unquote attack on their isolated environment.
The Gamergate era is, to me, a canon event.
Gamergate. Anita Sarkeesian. She made the...
Anita Sarkeesian. What did the other person say? So we've had Arnita Sarkeesian. Now we've had Anita Sarkeesian. It's Anita Sarkeesian. It's that easy. It's that easy.
This thing basically criticizing gaming culture, which was unheard of at that time.
That's not true. No, it wasn't. The thing that drew attention to her was how much money she raised. On, was it Kickstarter or GoFundMe? Some crowdfunding website.
At least with that scale and visibility, probably some black femmes and whatnot.
Not that scale and visibility, necessarily. We'd had articles in outlets. That much money. Money is the key part.
I was talking about that shit from time.
It's all right. We'll give Anita her little flowers.
That is the moment.
Isn't Anita Sarkeesian a minority, by the way? Don't Armenians count? Or are they white now?
Where all of these hypothetically racist, young white, socially disaffected men organized in a way that...
You're literally brain damaged if you think there was organization. If you genuinely believe there was it was a hashtag, dude. And then there were like a million little groups of people on Skype and on IRC.
They didn't even know was possible. And once they did, it changed the world. The way the internet works today is shaped by Gamergate. The way...
Yeah, in terms of the advancement of tech and strategies to shut down organic discussion and idea spreading, and to shut down people making one idea loud. Yeah, control over what's said on the net was influenced by Gamergate. Gamergate's impact on things outside of that? Not much. Not much.
Our politics work today is shaped by Gamergate.
Extreme mental illness. Extreme mental illness. Breitbart managed to like nab some gamers and make them a bit more partisan. Not in a like election changing way or level. Did not change the way politics works. No. Insane overstatement. Yeah, there was some, Bunny, but some that I'm sure you could even research and quantify. It was small enough and not complex enough.
Would racists and other gamers who enjoy the...
Like, Gamergate isn't the force that enabled Donald Trump, which is typically where people go. Absolutely not.
Various isms.
Even though it would surely influence some people to support him when perhaps, had there been no Gamergate. We're talking small numbers, though. We're not talking like flipping states.
That are rightfully being seen now as immoral and primitive in the modern age, what they fail to comprehend is that the presence of other groups pumps the industry with fresh stories and promises continued
what I like in games. Fresh stories.
Improvement to the technological options like refresh rate and texture patches.
What? So, refresh rate. You mean the high end of that is niche. If you get like 1 million new people in, it's probably like 5 people would buy into that tech. No, he's not saying that, but he's saying the more groups you get in, the more benefit you have in gaming, right? He said, fresh stories. Sure, the odds of getting a unique story are higher the more storytellers you have. Higher refresh rates. You get higher refresh rates and new texture packs. You just need enough money to incentivize that. I don't think more people playing games equals higher refresh rate. What does he mean? What is he? I'm actually brain damaged, having heard that. But are they going to bring up how pretty much everyone plays some form of game anyway? Most people are happy with like 20 to 30 FPS with no stability.
With that statistic in mind, how much should
groups with high standards who won't spend otherwise, sure. You have to have... Right. If you want everyone to like one thing, you have to appeal to the lowest common denominator, which means you're going to be appealing to people who have no taste, which means there's no pressure for objective improvements. If anything, something having mass appeal can work against technological improvement. Because if you don't have to pull it off, you won't. Especially with the level of tribalism fostered in particular, I'm thinking with regards to console wars. People brought into gaming will be encouraged to join a team, and then they'll just cope. Instead of getting an advancement, you'll get cope, and people will settle. No, doesn't make any sense.
we praise conglomerates worth billions of dollars for doing the absolute minimum to appease such a diverse audience? By bowing to the whims of...
Appease such a diverse audience? A game that is good to everyone probably isn't going to be a game that tells a story. It's going to be like Tetris or some shit. Products that appeal to everyone will either be, you know, generic but very high quality mechanically, right? There will be a game that is like mechanically focused, but in terms of set dressing generic, so it'll be like blocks, a puzzle game or some shit like that. If we're talking about games with a story that pleases everyone and doesn't make anyone nope out in the whole fucking world, that's gonna be bland trash.
White mediocrity. White men remain the face of the industry to be the designated saviors in every lobby and campaign.
The real impact.
Every lobby and campaign? Wait, white men are the designated saviors of online multiplayer lobbies? Or what kind of lobby does he mean? Every video game campaign? Yeah, actually, I don't know what the fuck he means by every lobby. Hey, did this guy buy Forspoken? Hey, what do you think of Forspoken? Did you buy it or do you hate black women? How many copies of Forspoken did you buy to make up for all the ones white men weren't buying? Or do you hate women and black people?
Of Gamergate was congealing the alt-right, anti-woke identity into a thing, and how that has manifested in everything from Donald Trump to Andrew Tate to...
Oh, so Gamergate didn't make Donald Trump win? They made Donald Trump? Is this guy suggesting that Donald Trump's persona is directly adopted deliberately from Gamergate? He thinks Andrew Tate is modeling himself after the ideals of Gamergate. I think, brother, the Hadith and the Quran have a bigger influence there.
Twitter trolls, one issue.
Twitter trolls. Twitter trolls were way more hardcore before Gamergate. Gamergate was a period of softening for trolls, and of trolls being stamped on way harder. This is like, what are you talking about? And during the height of popularity of use of the Gamergate hashtag, there were trolls there literally just to f with people. Real trolls. Just there to fuck with everyone and blow everything up because they thought the controversy generated was funny.
Voters, 4chan,
Sorry, boners 4chan?
Twitter trolls, one issue voters,
single issue voters, empowered by Gamergate. Insane. This is red string on newspaper articles. Gamergate guys could be described as anti-woke. Therefore, they're what led to the I'll vote for Trump to trigger the libs mindset. No. You don't do you think Gamergate instituted the two-party system? What do you... I don't think... Can we have some like data on how many people are single-issue voters before and after Gamergate and how that changed? I'm sure what the single issue is will change.
Hall donated £3.
Thank you.
I swear every one of these videos is just making my black ass want to be more racist just to spite these...
It's fine.
I've only been here a minute and already I'm in pain looking at these jabronis.
Ghost Hole, stay strong. Stay strong. Don't let them warp you. Don't stare into the abyss and become a monster yourself. It's fine. It's fine. You don't have to overcorrect from exposure to this. Don't worry. Don't worry. Okay.
4chan, anti-vaxxers like...
Hold up.
One issue voters, 4chan.
Gamergate had a pretty big impact on 4chan in that it was probably one of the... I think it is like the only topic that ended up getting flat out banned there. It ushered in an age of cuckedness on 4chan, yes? Am I remembering this right? Gamergate had the events of... Yo! Bunlord! Thank you very much for the 20 snubs. Thank you. Yeah, Ben, Gamergate killed 4chan. But all he's saying is like influence, and he's listing 4chan as an influenced or shaped thing by Gamergate. Which, like, is true, but the things he's listing are like all in different directions. 4chan is dead in spiritual sense. I'm aware that 4chan the site is up. It ain't 4chan anymore though. 4chan is not 4chan, is what I'm saying.
I'm full of opinions, it's my God.
I'm waiting, Ashred. Gamergate did those subscriptions, by the way. Thank you very much, Matt Jarbo. Maybe he'll say something about it, because he literally just said 4chan. Like, what is that meant to mean? Normally, if someone just says 4chan, they mean evil internet terror website. If you're invoking just 4chan, I don't think you're saying Gamergate led to its, like, sterilization. We're good? We're good. Thank you very much, Bunny.
Anti-vaxxers, like all of that.
バニラカピキのチアード X100 アイマジャスト B リアルジャッジメンタルハシーライトのディスマンガッタヘラフェミニンルッキングベッドルーム
What I'll say about this guy's room is it looks like he's put some bathroom shelves up. The metal mesh. Right. Anti-vaxxers is off timeline. No. Look. Gamergate went back in time and made people skeptical of using cowpox to inoculate people. Okay. Do you think he's too insecure about himself to also have the pink light? Like he... like he saw a bunch of bread tubers have the pink and blue lights and was like, I'm just gonna have blue because I'm not gay.
Issue voters, 4chan, anti-vaxxers, like all of that.
Something that's wild about this is a major problem with the Gamergate hashtag is that the people using it actually clashed along lines of political orientation. A big problem is they couldn't put politics aside. And that was a common clash all the time. A lot of people's understanding of what was happening is based on sources that have been carefully curated with many details purged. Most of what went on Twitter has been purged, so you can't go look yourself. You can't go look yourself. The somewhat more liberal left parts of Gamergate as well were very, very keen on announcing themselves because they didn't like being called right-wingers. Right? The people who were liberal and lefty didn't appreciate being constantly called right-wingers. which of course, the purpose of that was to get them upset at being called right-wingers, so that then they'd be angry at the people using the Gamergate hashtag who were right-wingers, justifying that, being called that. So then there'd be infighting over it. They'd be like, stop saying these right-wing things because we're getting called right-wing and we're in with you, blah, 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 blah. You're going to have a... If you try to figure out what Gamergate was like now, you can't. Kiwi Farms, I imagine, probably has the best archive of it. The best archive of events. The only problem with the Kiwi Farms thing is that it will tend to focus on a particular kind of interesting, particularly involving like particular exceptional individuals. And will give you, Kiwi Farms will give you a less broad picture, but probably a good, like, let's call it a vertical slice. In terms of getting a broad picture of everything that was going on and a feel for it overall, though, I don't think you can. I don't think you can get it. You had to be there, man. You had to be there. Craziest thing was the first meetup I went to probably had like 20 people and like 4 of them were black. The second meetup I went to had more people and a much higher percentage were black. Including a... What was he called? I don't know if I even knew what he was called. I got pretty drunk with the Nigerian guy. He was... Oh no. He was the guy I might have told you about. He was talking about how like he hates these people because he hates American black people because they were slaves and they make everyone think all black people are descended from slaves and they weren't all out. And he was like, I'm proudly Nigerian, never a slave. Don't group me in with them. Like, fuck.
To me, starts with Gamergate.
Once again, using Far Cry's...
Wait, sorry. That starts with Gamergate? Hold up.
Trump to Andrew Tate to Twitter to Twitter trolls, one issue voters, 4chan, anti-vaxxers, like all of that to me starts with Gamergate. What?
Actual brain dead Twitter trolls start with Gamergate? Donald Trump starts with Gamergate? Anti-vax starts with Gamergate? That one, maybe the anti-vax one is the most mentally ill. Wow. I can't believe Gamergate did this. I can't believe Gamergate did this. Hello, Katana 1988. How's it going? What up? I'm watching a video and learning about racism in gaming. And I'm learning incredible things, like the Gamergate hashtag ushered in the age of anti-vax. Traveled back in time to generate anti-vax sentiment.
Once again, using Far Cry's compelling villains and their iconography and immersive, engaging gameplay, the 5th game in the series was originally expected to battle a violent white supremacist cult in the Montana area. As per usual, Q...
Did it not? I never played it. I've played Far Cry 1. I've played the Definition of Insanity baddie one, whoever that is. I don't remember. I got interrupted partway through my playthrough.
The fragile white racist tantrums with the works and...
Oh wait, I did play Far Cry 5. It just wasn't very memorable. I remember there was like the lady who comes to you through the flowers, the narcotic lady, right? And there's a bear you get? I don't know.
By the works I'm talking about kicking, screaming, tweets, sweaty Reddit posts at 3 a.m. and threats of boycotts for good measure. This unsurprisingly led to the developers toning down the racist elements of the entire...
Did it? Sorry, wait, you have to show proof that they toned it down. You're showing that people were disappointed in the portrayal. You're not showing me that they toned it down in response to outcry.
By introducing
Show me now.
black men as villains within a far-right Christian cult.
By introducing a few... You have to show us that they didn't do that already. You have to show us that they decided to do that. Otherwise, that's not... You have to prove the causality. You can say you didn't like it. You can say you think they did it wrong. They should have done it differently. Blah, 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 blah. It was a waste. You could even suggest, you could say, I think they were too scared to do it. You can't say they did it in response because you don't know.
In Montana. And I think it's worth noting that the inclusion of these black characters in this context surpassed the actual demographic makeup of Montana's population.
I've had my moments.
So it's a success of representation. It's an inclusivity victory in gaming. Let's go.
Of trolling America Online chat rooms and shit, right? So like,
I'm just sorry to interrupt again. I also can't help but think, well, what if there was like a hyper religious far right doomsday group in real life that had a few black members? I'm pretty sure he'd be calling them like white nationalist, white supremacist, right? And then probably have some unkind words towards the black members and essentially say they're tokens, right? Like if that cult existed in real life, I don't think he'd complain about them not being racist enough. I think he'd be calling them racist. Like, these guys can read it into everything, but not that? Of course you can. Of course you can.
I get it. When I left the house, there was shame attached to that behavior. When I cut off the screen, there was shame attached to that behavior. Now you do that and then you show your friends.
Yeah.
Now you do that and then you brag about it on Twitter or 4chan. Look at this awful thing I did to somebody that I'll never face consequences for. And when that happened, there was a loss of access to functionally engage with a whole portion of people. The lasting impact of Gamergate is like up there with wars and COVID. Gamergate is up there, and I don't think...
No, it's not. It really isn't. It really isn't, man. Like, I don't know who he is. I don't know. Look, maybe someone involved with posting on the hashtag Gamergate back in the day blew up his house. If his house was blown up by someone involved in the Gamergate stuff, then for him the impact is on the level of like a war. What was the economic impact of Gamergate? Compare that to a war or COVID. What is the death toll of Gamergate? You would have to reach so hard to even say like 1 or 2. You'd have to find someone who was on Twitter who themselves and say like Gamergate did this or some. Of course they're gonna argue nebulous cultural impact. It changed the way we thought about things. Maybe. I don't know.
I think people fully appreciate that.
Through our handy-dandy Wayback Machine, I found screenshots of the since-deleted campaign, featuring a few troubling articles downplaying its asininity and a reply saved by the alleged original poster from the change.org petition.
It's time to draw a line in the sand. We, the American gamers that make up the majority of your user base, demand to you cancel this game or alter it to be less offensive to your main player base. In these times, you must...
Are they gonna... Hey, look, it's possible that they took this petition and changed their game. He's shown us that there was a petition. He's shown that people were disappointed with the game. You have to show that the developers or the producer decided.
Must understand that there might be some violent repercussions if you intend to follow through with your pointless criticism.
Yeah, sure, that's demented and stupid and awful, but...
However, the fact that the developers ultimately adjusted the idea implies...
Did they adjust the idea? Where's the evidence that they adjusted the idea? Literally show me. Show me. I don't know. I haven't seen this. Show me on screen that they changed it. You've shown me that people were disappointed with it because it wasn't how they thought it would be. You've shown me that people thought it was going to be a certain way and demanded it be changed. What if the people who demanded it be changed are morons? Given their writing, I imagine that's quite likely. What if they were wrong about how it was going to be, the devs didn't change anything, and it was always going to be that mild?
That the protests had a tangible impact, which is very disappointing and ironic given that the use of such a setting casually omits the approximately 7% Native American population, therefore raising questions about the game's realism and inclusivity.
Did Gamergate do justice for black women and femmes in particular, and black gamers?
One of the first stories that have to be told.
Oh, damn. Maybe the cult wiped out the native. Wait. Sorry. He said there are too many black people and not enough natives. That's a nuanced critique. But at the same time, you can also go, hey, why do you want to see native people subjected to a weird far-right cult? Do you want to see that? Also, Bunny, I am very confused about what's being said as well.
Realism and inclusivity.
All right.
Did Gamergate do justice for black women and femmes in particular, and
Did Gamergate do justice for black women and femmes?
And black gamers?
One of the first stories that have to be told around it, white women who were impacted by the effects of Gamergate, they did not want women of color coming and disrupting the conversations. Black women were
That's true. And black and white women didn't want the male games journalists who were shit on to disrupt that. Because it's quite... Not so much anymore. But it can be a bit. Look at Keffels, for instance. It can be very lucrative to be hated. To be hated and to be part of a protected group. You can make a lot of money as a symbol of victimhood.
trying to like talk about like oh, it's a lot going on, y'all. You know, Mike Brown was just killed. You know, they killed Tamir Rice, and you know, and also like with Gamergate, like we're all experiencing like a lot. Black woman comment. White women responded and said, "This is not a space for Black Lives Matter," because in their mind they saw it.
I don't think that happened. I was closely watching this stuff. I don't think that happened. Hold on. Who? There's no way Anita goes, "This is not a place for Black Lives Matter." There's no way Brianna Wu goes, "This is not a place for Black Lives Matter." Which white women are you talking about? Like your Facebook friends? Yes, the anti-Gamergate side. The victims, the so-called victims of Gamergate, she's complaining that the white women tried to say they were impacted the most or whatever, or try to like, or rather, we're not being intersectional and recognizing how it impacted black women differently.
White women who were impacted by the effects of Gamergate, they did not want women of color coming and disrupting the conversations. Black women were trying to like talk about like, oh, it's a lot going on, y'all. You know, Mike Brown was just killed. You know, they killed Tamir Rice. And
I looked it up. Apparently, Black Lives Matter started being a thing at the end of 2013, so it did exist. But I can't imagine, and I didn't see anyone going, "Black women, be quiet." They would very much want to use black women and say, "And here are the black women who are impacted. Look, they're racist too," type.
And, you know, and also like with Gamergate, like we're all experiencing like a lot. Black woman comment. White women responded and said, "This is not a space for Black Lives Matter." Because in their mind, they saw it as like, okay, Black Lives Matter, that's black men being killed. Because they completely like, because the misogynoir of it all, they ignored and didn't realize like, you know, how, you know, black women, black femmes, black trans folks like were like impacted too. We just didn't talk about their stories. But then
Right. Now we're talking about the people who are the white women who opposed Gamergate didn't respect the trauma of black women with regard to Black Lives Matter because the white women cared more about black men and didn't consider that it's an issue for black women as well. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. So?
they were like, this is a white woman's issue. They really saw themselves.
They were like, this is a white, specifically white? No, all the anti-Gamergate women figureheads were always talking, were always hyping up and say I'm pro intersectionality specifically. They absolutely were not. Maybe your buddies, maybe some tiny nobodies the figureheads, the key people, this is just absolute nonsense. This is not real. This did not happen.
As like the pinnacle of the ones who are experiencing like the harassment. Black women were like,
this lady's just jealous of Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian. The main, she could try and say like the most popular ones were white women, because that's true, sure. The ones who made the most cash off of it, certainly. And you can say, oh look, the racism in who gets supported. Maybe, if you really wanted to argue that. None of them were saying, no, this isn't for black women. No, that's not real.
no,
I sense like jealousy here.
y'all's is just more visible. We have been dealing historically with this since games went online.
You've been dealing historically with Gamergate, or to be more generous, So is she suggesting that there was a period of time in which black women were made fun of or insulted in online games, but white women were not? That doesn't exist. That specific period doesn't exist. Also, yes, that's not a lot of time at all. Don't use the term historically. She said before it went online. I don't
They
think
really saw themselves
Hang on.
as like the pinnacle of the ones who are experiencing like the harassment. Black women were like, no, y'all's is just more visible. We have been dealing historically with this since games went online.
Since games went online. Historically. When you use the term historically, did you know that means regarding anything that occurred before Gamergate?
And we can even talk even more historically because we also deal
even more historically
with it like in the real world. There's protectionism for you, white lady.
There's protectionism for white ladies? I presume she just means protection. There's protectionism is something else, okay? We will not. The gamers refuse to import white women from outside of the country. Your value is maintained. You don't have to compete with other producers of white women. Protectionism, okay.
It's like this protection around white womanhood that has always been there, and it's like enacted, to ensure that you're protected. Black women have not been extended that, right? White women have violated the rules of whiteness, because basically they were calling out white men. They were calling out the structures that white men had like created. They're doing videos about how sexist things are, and then they weren't aligned along the lines of like whiteness. So I feel like that this was like some punishment, like of like, hey, we gotta teach them their lesson. We gotta show them that they have to rally around like white men. We're the leaders. We're the ones on top of this totem pole. And if they don't get in line, we're going to harass them. Like later, what we actually found out was that Gamergate, it was not that big. They were using bots. They were maximizing, the capacities of like the platforms and the technological tools to make it seem like it was larger than it actually was. And that's really like the story and the lesson that went into the alt-right, that went into the rise of Trump, that kind of went into like the misinformation, fake news, kind of like things that led.
This is schizo. I feel like if they had lighter colored skin, this guy would be banned for like conspiracy theories on YouTube.
To like the rise that, hey, we don't need a critical mass, to sustain like a social movement.
So what's the threat then? If it's like 2 guys and 1 billion bots, what's the threat?
We just need like a dedicated few and these technological tools, and we can make it seem like it's more dramatic than what it actually is.
Far Cry 3. And let me just pause there to say that.
Who is she anyway? Do I know who she is? Kishona? Is that? Never heard of her in my life. How involved could she have been?
The game is absolutely exceptional. I mean, there's no denying.
I don't think I can say her name because her name is a joke. Her name is a black people eating watermelon joke, right? Can I even say her name? On like her Twitter display name.
That it single-handedly changed the industry. The very way that players view antagonists and the very formula used by the designers to create antagonists to this day portray the iconic Mohawk villain.
Not if you've ever read a book. No, it didn't. It didn't blow your mind if you've read a book. Sorry.
Vas and his sister as magical
or watch the
Negroes
movie.
and menacing gang leaders. But content within games like FC3 can inadvertently perpetuate racist attitudes. Players assume the identity of the white male protagonist who was attacked and subsequently
Assume the identity of? Take control of that character. Okay.
kidnapped by pirates after going on vacation with friends. The narrative unfolds using the familiar white savior trope, where he emancipates himself and systematically eliminates his captors.
Am I having like a psychotic break? Don't you get ritually sacrificed in Far Cry 3? Am I crazy? Or is that one thing that can happen? Am I losing my mind? That's one ending, if you have sex. Okay.
To rescue his buddies. The problematic element emerges when the protagonist seeks knowledge and tools from the very stereotypical, whimsical, wise, magical Negro, who bestows him with a tribal tattoo, a move that not only reinforces racial...
You're crossing cultural streams, brother. This is something else.
...stereotypes, but also imbues the white character with increased stats, perpetuating harmful tropes that blackness is synonymous with improved strength and a higher pain tolerance.
They didn't make him black. It's... Okay. Someone having dark skin and being able to imbue magic-like effects is not the same.
You play The Last of Us.
I saw like the film on it.
You should go back and play. Well, no, you don't have.
The idea of tattoos imbuing you with power as well isn't the same as black skin, black people power. Something else. Entirely.
Have to. So I was bothered. It's a really beautiful narrative. The first one follows Joel. You have like this father figure narrative, you know, a lot of protection, a lot of things like that. So it's really like, it's got a cute little storyline. But in the second one, we follow Ellie. You know, Ellie is Joel's daughter. She's trying to like avenge his death, and she goes on this death path. Like, she's just killing everybody. She approaches somebody named Nora, black woman. Nora is a part of like the resistance. Nora and Ellie, they fall down into the basement. There's a hole in the floor. They fall down to the basement, and the zombie spores are there. So Ellie is immune, and the Fireflies wanted to basically use her blood to try to create like an antigen and like, you know,
Okay, who asked? Stop.
a vaccine to kind of cure everybody. Joel was like, no, not my daughter. I'm not having it. And so the world was like, no, she could really save all of us. We just got to sacrifice her. So it's kind of like one of those morality stories where, you know, kind of makes you think deeply about what's the right thing to do. So, you know, like, I get that.
Kind of. But also it's not, because there's still the possibility that it would not work. It's more than that. And it's definitely less deep for it.
But anyway, Ellie starts killing everybody though. I'm like, if we don't kill this bitch and just end this shit, you know, that's what I'm on. But we fall down into where the spores are. You know, so Nora, black woman, you know, she's impacted because she's not immune. They've been working for a cure. So she, you know, she's about to turn into like a zombie. I'm thinking that Ellie, white girl, is just gonna walk off, you know, because we're gonna die anyway. She sits there and starts hacking and slashing. But that's not the most offending part.
Hacking and slashing the person who's going to become a zombie. I don't remember this scene, but yeah, no.
It puts the gamer in control of it. Basically, on the screen, it says press X / press square. So the mechanics of the game really has us engaging like in torture. The torture like of this black woman. And to me,
was she unable to recognize that happening throughout the entire game and could only recognize that that's what's happening when it was someone who had the same skin color as her? She couldn't recognize that she was doing it throughout the whole game. The only time she recognized it and was like, oh no, was when it was someone of the same race. You've just... The story she's just told is, hello, I am a psychopath. I'm a sociopath. Yes. You're meant to be. Granted, I think The Last of Us 2 completely fails at doing this, but if it succeeds, you would be supposed to take away from that scene upset at doing that. You're supposed to be like, oh, the brutality. Maybe this is too far. Yes.
It's like insult to injury because she was already getting ready to die. Why did we
And become a clicker or some shit after some time.
have to do like this added? It was anti-black as I thought
It was anti-fungus.
it was racist as hell. I stopped playing the game. I ain't playing this game no more.
It perpetuates.
She didn't feel that about any of the other choices in the game. Wow. The guy was bit by a zombie and you killed him.
It's like this idea of, yet again, the same type of subjugation and torture of the Atlantic slave trade and everything like that. Or
no, this is brain dead level attempt at engaging with critical theory. This is drawing lines. This is drawing the most tenuous of lines. No, a black person who has been infected with a zombie fungus being put down so they don't become a zombie doesn't connect that much with the Atlantic slave trade and the brutal treatment of Africans. No. When you stub your toe, as a black person, when you stub your toe and it bleeds, that's not like, oh, this really makes me think of the Atlantic slave trade where people were whipped so hard blood would be drawn. No, the line isn't there, buddy. Sorry.
even like when you get into how the perception of like black maternal mortality, and the reason being a lot of the times, like the research shows that like white doctors and white surgeons, they don't empathize with black pain. Like when a black woman, a feminist, trying to go and tell them and say, hey, I don't feel right, or like I feel pain, I need more of this, I need more of that.
The pervasive racism within the gaming community makes for a hostile environment that people of color, particularly in FPS games like Call of Duty, find challenging to navigate. For those unfamiliar, games, the gaming community makes for a hostile.
I'm going to assume, Sivy, that those studies exist or whatever, but they're pasting it onto something absolutely irrelevant to that. They're springboarding off that with something absolutely not connected at all.
The pervasive racism within the gaming community makes for a hostile environment that people of color, particularly in FPS games like Call of Duty,
particularly in FPS games, but not in other kinds of games. Why particularly in FPS?
Find challenging to navigate. For those unfamiliar, interactive lobbies and the open voice chat were established to facilitate communication and tactical decisions among gamers.
So particularly in games with open voice chat and lobby chats.
But what you'll actually get are screaming white boys calling
pronouns
anyone and everyone that minutely offends.
Look, this video was goofy as hell. You're super doing this guy dirty though. He didn't even say, he made a video that you can choose to listen to or not. He wasn't yelling this at someone over a voice chat.
White boys calling literally anyone and everyone that minutely offends or responds to them the gamer word, which is the N-word.
As gaming got more accessible...
Also, heel versus babyface, as far as I'm aware, never said that.
Like, other people were more easily able to access it. Behavior was so reinforced of just like, we're just joking around, we're saying a bunch of edgy stuff, that once people confronted them about that, it felt like an attack on them, if that makes any sense. It's like, I've been doing this forever, and then no one had an issue with it. So now, like...
You're coming from my culture.
Yeah, they're victimized. They feel victimized. And then what happens is that the people that they're friends with that also are fine with this behavior kind of reinforce that. And like it gets polarized, further and further polarized. The thing that matters most in that interaction where you're being confronted is the fact that this person is like confronting you. Everyone you know, this behavior is fine around. And so like... You start building...
In the context of a game, we're about to just be shooting each other, though, as well. You don't think venue has anything to do with it either? It's weird that they're trying to talk about what's wrong with these people, and why they're wrong and what's wrong with them is what's wrong with them. And they're not going... You're painting them as people who just feel attacked and feel like they're defending themselves and stuff. In a Call of Duty lobby, they're like, oh my god, I had no idea that black people didn't like you when you yelled the N-word at them. But it's my culture, okay? You have to understand. No, they'll yell at you again louder. Like, what the f*** are you talking about?
Association with anyone who is trying to tell you this is wrong. You're almost getting like shoved more and more into this corner of people that are all fine with this. There's a concept called group polarization, which is like when a group feels attacked, your beliefs as a group will become more and more extreme, like more and more polarized. People say they play games to escape from reality. Sometimes it really feels like it's, I need to escape from the idea that there are people that are worse off than me. They want
Oh no. Need to escape from the idea that there are people who are worse off than me. How much of a problem are people who are worse off than you? Why would you need to escape from that?
want to live in that time where they didn't have to think about any of this. When like a game has themes of like modern day stuff, it becomes like a whole thing where like their reality is being shattered, or like their escape is being shattered.
For those who happen to have an intersectional identity beyond able-bodied cis-hetero.
So you're okay with escapism, just not if it means not engaging with your pet cause. What would be an argument they'd have to interface with? Perhaps a good path to go down against that is, well, they're not going to be a worthwhile ally if you just grind them into paste, right? If any attempt they make to relax, to engage in recreational activities, you demand that they be worn down by that wears them out, they're going to be a useless ally. They're not going to be able to do anything for you. So it's against your best interests to do so.
For whiteness, the voice chat can include insensitive depictions, harmful stereotypes, and in the most alarming instances, harassment campaigns reminiscent to Gamergate.
Yo.
To this end, Dr. Kashona
Let's
Gray
go.
examines the issues within the gaming industry by stating, marginalizing practices in game culture have become more widely publicized and understood in recent years, most notably because of high-profile incidents of harassment. However, representations of women and racial or ethnic minorities by the gaming industry have also been problematic, historically.
That's fine, because I don't pay attention to them.
For example, since the 1980s, video games have been critiqued for the hypersexualization of women, and women are often the victims of misogynistic vitriol, as the incidents around Gamergate.
Do you mean in real life? So you're talking about depiction of women in games, and then you're talking about misogynistic vitriol. Do you mean within the game by the characters or outside in that instance? You're blending contexts.
Have exposed. People of color are featured in largely stereotypical ways and are all but absent from the gaming industry.
To white children, racism is a bonding practice. The same way that misogyny is a bonding practice for men, we have been taught to not think that that's a real thing. A guy like me wouldn't do that. This guy beat up, did some awful, what was wrong with him? What was she wearing? You know what I'm saying? What did you do to make him mad? Like, that's how, this is the same way racism works. And so the same ways in which I believe you tackle misogyny among men and things like that is the same way we got to tackle racism. The problem is
how was it tackled for women, though? What did they do?
We have to count on actual other white people to do it properly. That's Shaq at the free throw line.
Queer gamers and gamers with disabilities are almost entirely absent, and when
sorry, what was done for women? What was done for women and needs to be done for minorities? I haven't heard what was done for them. Did they say?
Present are not depicted.
I know a handful of women got like a lottery level payout. Well, not lottery level. A very nice payout.
Clearly, this differential treatment appears to have a symbolic relationship with the exclusion of marginalized players.
Gamergate is, in my mind, this extension of white feminism. Knowing his
Is there any combination? I think I've misunderstood this video. I think this video is just an attempt to say every possible combination of words. They're just saying they've picked some words, and throughout this video, they're just going to say those words over and over again in different combinations. And now we've hit this.
Symbolic relationship with the
Symbolic
exclusion
relationship.
of marginalized players.
Gamergate is, in my mind, this extension of white feminism. Knowing historically white feminism's role in the institutions of white supremacy and how white femininity bolsters white supremacy in many cases, especially like when you look at people like Carrie Chapman, who was one of the biggest in the women's suffrage, but like basically when it was time to break bread, they were just like, hey, you know, you could enfranchise us white women, but them
We don't fuck with them niggas.
we need someone to mow the lawn and shit.
People like think back and look at like the suffragettes and look at like the movements. You know, a lot of them, they like to do revisionist history. White women wanted the right.
Generally true. The whole people who pushed for rights for their group then wanted to exclude black people. Sure. How is Gamergate a group pushing for rights that then wants to exclude another group? What are the rights being pushed for? Like, what the f is being... What do you mean? Did he think beyond, I think this thing bad? I think this thing bad, so aren't they kind of the same?
To vote because they wanted to secure, you know, total domination of white supremacy. This is just like a continuation of those historical legacies of like, you know, white women want supreme domination and total domination, and they'll do it like by any means necessary. You know, I don't want to negate, you know, the things that they went through, especially with the Gamergate. It was really...
Sorry, is the conclusion to this video white women are the real enemy?
really sad. It was really awful. You know, I really felt bad for like a lot of them.
Sounds like you should have joined Gamergate. Wait, is the conclusion Gamergate was right? F those bitches? Is that what you... Sorry, does this mean Gamergate was an anti-racist movement against the white women trying to keep the black women down?
But they really said to us, you know, to like the black women's community, they were like, you know, we don't need your help. This isn't your problem. This was like the same moment that happened like in the 70s.
Sorry, they said we don't need your help.
You know, when the feminism, you know, the feminist movement.
Was that a slip? Did she try and get in on something and, you know, offer her services to a Sarkeesian or a Quinn and get turned down? Is that what's going on here?
Movement like was happening, and you know, so many women were like, you know, we're tired of being at home, we want to go work. And you know, black and brown women were like, what y'all talking about? We working. And in fact, we need to add and update some of these demands. We want better working conditions. We want better wages. Like, we already working. Y'all can just get y'all asses up at the house. Ain't nobody keeping y'all in the house.
Gamergate, whatever its initial motivations may have been, and its offshoots, have evolved into an internet culture war stoked by the revolving door of cancel culture and outrage baiting by the right. On one side, independent game makers and critics, many of whom are women and femmes, have and continue to advocate for increased inclusion, while
on one side, indie devs?
A motley alliance of vitriolic opponents comprised of misogynists, anti-feminists, trolls, individual convinced of manipulation by...
None of these people he's alluding to, give a fuck about indie gaming though, right? I thought they were all like AAA guys. Only care about the big shit. Am I crazy?
By left-leaning and or corrupt press, and traditionalists who resist any alterations to the established norms in gaming. The clash between these factions reflect broader debates surrounding representation and change. But as written in the Washington Post, the divide is, in part, demographic. It's the difference between the historical, stereotypical gamer, young, nerdy white guy who likes guns and boobs, and the much broader, more diverse range of people who play now.
Your guests disagree. You just, for like the past 48 minutes, had guests who are saying that's not the divide. That in fact, white women are not on their side. So it's not just young, nerdy white men versus everyone else or whatever. You've suggested there's a deeper cut between people for this whole time, and now you're saying there isn't?
But all is not lost. marginalized groups actively combat the status quo in the gaming world using mods, forums, and inclusive events with the sole aim to expose their requisite player base to new perspectives and call
requisite player base
for representation.
Ebonix Sims, it took a black woman to create the mods for us to see ourselves. They were like, okay, you're not going to give us like black skins, we'll create it. You're not going to give us like the clothes that we might wear, okay, we'll create it.
As expected, black, trans, and black trans femme creators in particular are leading the change to develop mods that enhance realistic.
No, Hex, they're going to lose their mind when they find out mirrors exist.
Depictions of people of color addressing concerns such as limited and stereotypical designs that liken Black Sims' hairstyle to a stalk of friggin' broccoli.
And they had like a bunch of like racist caricatures of fighters.
So first off, video games come from Japan, and I don't have to
sentence.
Period. They're racist against white people. The only place where anti-white racism exists is in Japan. Because if Japanese people depicted black people the way they
white the pig, go home.
Depict white people, like you could just go to Tekken. Tekken has a Chuck Norris American flag waving loudmouth dude. They have a fat white guy. The way people consume blackness is through our media. And black media is over the top and bombastic. It should be just for an entertaining, dandy-esque element, but people be like, no, that's how niggas is. Yeah, the hair, the suits, the big old lips, that's all that. Every black fighting game character was a break dancer or played basketball. One thing I think people don't...
Oh my God. No!
Every black fighting game character was a break dancer or played...
That's capoeira. Oh no, they just this guy. Isn't Eddie Gordo Brazilian? Am I crazy? Eddie Gordo is a fictional character from the Tekken series created by Bandai Namco Entertainment. The character is a Brazilian capoeira fighter. Tekken's characters can be called stereotypical, because they are. It's much more about nationality, though. It's much more about nationality, not race. Not race. It's just that nationality might overlap with race, right? This is not a black breakdancer. This is a Brazilian capoeira. I guess you'd say practitioner, right?
Basketball. One thing I think people don't realize that even I still struggle with as I'm making content that is consumed by a lot of white people is that large chunks.
It's true that capoeira is highly racial, but Tekken's design brief would be around nationalities, right? Generally in fighting games, it's going to be around nationality. They aren't thinking, oh, this is the martial art that the slaves pretended was a dance so they could practice, right?
So white people.
It's not them going, we're making a black character, we're going to have him breakdance, which is what's being suggested here. And then the example given is Eddie Gordo. No, they weren't going, he's a black character, we're going to have him breakdance. It's, he's a Brazilian character, he's going to have brown skin, he's going to practice capoeira.
People literally know no niggas, have never seen black people in real life, have no direct contact with us. And their only contact is through media. Now their only interaction with blackness is Lil Jacob, is CJ from GTA, what was that, 3? Then you start getting into some Fanon Afro-pessimism shit where we stop being human and we start being avatars for them to consume life in blackness as a...
I would suggest that effect is unavoidable. Within a video game, for instance. Within a video game, specifically. Not for instance, specifically within video games or within a narrative where you're only seeing characters, I think you will always have a sort of pseudo-dehumanization where to you, your understanding of an entire demographic is based on characters. The limited palette is more important than it being negative or positive. If you only see if you only see these positive characters, you're going to have a warped, non-human view of them. However, I think with the existence of social media, this is bollocks. This is bullshit. Nowadays, this is bullshit because they will see real black people online, unless, you know, I'm talking about like Japanese people, mate. Obviously, other places in Asia, other places in the world, if online stuff is restricted, then I guess that phenomenon could potentially happen. But they're going to see real black people on social media, right?
As a commodity.
It's like people can just take like a cyber tour of the ghetto. They can take a cyber tour of the barrio, ride through it a little bit, go in, and they think they cool, they think they know it, but then they leave. There's never really like a real engagement with like who our cultures are. And there's no understanding of like how those conditions came to be. With Assassin's Creed, you know, going like to the islands, we didn't talk about, how
it's hard. Okay, I'm still thinking about this. It's hard to say. I was getting all indignant. I was saying, this guy saying Eddie Gordo is just a black breakdancer. He's a Brazilian capoeira practitioner. However, at the same time, mandatory, as anyone who has ever played Tekken will tell you, Eddie Gordo, unequivocally, that motherfucker. You knock someone up into the air, you launch someone, following being launched, your damage is scaled due to that. They take less damage once they're in the air. Eddie Gordo, your first hit scales. Because of the way he moves, he counts as being off the ground a lot of the time. Fuck that guy. Fuck him.
Basically how the world did Haiti. Like, how dare Haiti, get its freedom? We don't really talk about like the sanctions and the embargoes and basically how the world has collectively and globally have tried to starve Haiti because they still blame them for leaving their colonizer. Like, how dare you not want your colonizer to colonize you anymore? How dare you?
Black gamers have long since lamented about the default style options and character customization sequences that represent a narrow view of blackness. Christian Fagans.
Excuse me? I didn't. Ooh. No. I'm saying, no, Ghost, I'm saying fighting against Eddie. He essentially has more HP than other people. His movement fine. When you hit him, your first hit already gets scaling applied to it. It's bullshit. Also, what was I going to say? I don't know. As well, just like, okay. Generally, I'm going to be, in favor of slaves revolting. I am anti-slavery. Look, hot take, I'm anti-slavery. Slave revolt where you torture and mutilate babies? Maybe just don't do that part if you have any humanity whatsoever. Just saying.
A 24-year-old gamer from Philadelphia who goes by the name Coco Games began her Sims journey with The Sims 3 and considers herself both a storyteller and an artist. The Sims serves as a medium to express her emotions.
What the? Wait. Okay. You'd expect him to accept Lucky B, I'm anti-slavery. Yeah. I'm anti-slavery for men. I'm just a joke, Twitch admin, please. So, we had the section, women are kept down by hypersexualized, dehumanizing portrayals. Black women are kept down. Look at this black woman's great mod. If you did not know this was made by a black woman, you'd probably call it like racist and dehumanizing and sexist, right? With like a 10-foot thigh gap.
Applied the incredible design power of the 3D form.
Oh yeah, wait, that's shoe on head. It's not two different pictures. It's like a
in both character and setting creation. An artist's life isn't easy. Most notably, colorism and the unauthorized use of her creations highlights the ongoing struggles for
unauthorized use of her creations? You mean people downloading the mod?
Inclusivity and respect within the Sims community. She recounted her experience as follows. If I upload a promo picture of my CC and it's a light-skinned Sim, I'm 100% going to get 200, 300, 400 likes. If I use a black or dark-skinned Sim on my promo picture, even in my thumbnails, this is where I really see it. It's not getting as much traction.
You yourself. You've said what people care about here is seeing themselves, right? People want to see themselves. What people like is seeing themselves. If you put up something that reflects more of the people looking, they like it. You get more likes. If an appearance is less common amongst the people looking, you get less likes. in order for your model to be correct, this outcome has to happen. If this didn't happen, it would mean you're wrong. Right? Nah, random name? Likes are just a goo. Likes are a goo. They're not actually countable. They're like a fluid, so it's less likes, not fewer likes. Okay? So if you're going to say there are more lighter-skinned people playing, people want to see themselves, if you are correct, you would expect lighter-skinned ones to have more likes. You're upset that you're not wrong. Or rather, you're upset that you haven't just been proven wrong. What the...
It's really crazy how everything, all of the systemic stuff, is even down here in a video game.
Systemic stuff. No, it's your model of the world. People want to see themselves. If there are more lighter-skinned people, you're going to get more likes on your lighter-skinned Sims. That's your worldview. Working. You should be happy.
That's one of the things I hate so much, because I'm like, I'm going to use models that look like me. I'm dark. And then you'll see it doesn't get as many comments.
Yes, because there's less of you. Or rather, less of people who are like you.
Oh my God, the model is so beautiful. But when I upload somebody who favors lighter skin, it's, oh my God, like, can I download the sim? It's so sad.
Who was the one who told me that?
Why is it sad? What you're actually complaining about is that you aren't the majority. That's your complaint. If you're saying it gets more likes because people like to see themselves, there are more people who are lighter skinned, so the lighter skinned ones gets more likes. If that's why, and you're sad that it gets more likes, you're saying you want those people gone. You want those human beings gone, so that it won't have more likes. And you want more people who are like you, is what you've said, but you've just veiled it in this. If your model was, I think people just hate dark skin and like light skin, that's why the light ones have more likes, right? Then you could say it's sad, it's prejudice, blah, 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 blah. But if your model is people like to see themselves, then you're really complaining about who exists, the human beings. You're complaining about the existence of human beings, not their views or anything else.
My weight equated my value, because I was very healthy then, like a healthier weight. Like, yeah, I was overweight, but I was a healthier weight.
Go.
And now, like, yeah, I got a lot of extra on me, but my blood work looks better than my husband's. I had to learn.
Yeah, but how much does your husband weigh?
Learn to love me. And for a lot of male gamers, especially because of male figures in their lives, it's harder to find what it really is to love yourself.
So, what can you do? What can we do? I love games, and I hear and see the outrage and fervent responses by those who enjoy playing, designing, and even watching games.
Because you allude to something I think is powerful. We're forced to empathize with whiteness through our media and consumption of media because we never see ourselves.
Right. He's now said two things across the course of this video. We're forced to empathize with whiteness through our media because we never see ourselves. Previously, he said, black people have a communal nature which white people do not have, and we always hang out together. Surely it's more significant that you see other people with similar skin color to you in real life than it is to see that in a movie. And if it's true, if your worldview is correct and accurate and a model of the world, it's not, and you believe white people don't have that communal lifestyle, wouldn't a white overrepresentation be justice in that they're missing that in real life so they get it in movies and games? If your model's true, wouldn't that be just, actually, if black people get that in real life, but then white people have to get it from movies and games? That's not correct. That's obviously wrong. But wouldn't that be how it works?
Like, I grew up in Stand By Me and The Sandlot and The Simpsons and
Sorry, what color are The Simpsons?
Growing Pains. All these shows with young adolescent white boys, I learned how to project my black ass onto these white boys.
I learned how to project my black ass onto these little white boys. Oh no, stop doing it. Stop it! I don't think you have to project yourself onto them, though. Don't you just have, like, the part of the brain where you just feel it?
They don't know how to do that shit. My sons have no video games still. 2020.
I can empathize with white people only because I was trained by The Simpsons. Why isn't he in a padded room? I can empathize with people who have a different color skin to me only because I was trained by The Simpsons.
23. There are no games for them to play where they play little black boys. None.
Roblox. Multiplied by thousands because you can play thousands of games within Roblox. What are games where you can play as little boys? Notice how he uses the qualifier as well, little boys. No, Policans, they talked about Spider-Man in this video, they talked about Miles Morales. That would be an obvious one for them to pick. That's why he narrowed it down to little black boys. It's not enough for his black kids to play as a black man or a black character. Has to be a little black kid that looks exactly like them.
All the adventure and joy and fun in life is filtered through a white male perspective for everyone, let alone little black boys who are...
If you're like just a diseased consumer, if you're mentally diseased, deranged consumer, get a fucking yo-yo. Like, what the f***? Go play with other kids. I don't learn emotion through toys and entertainment and video games. In fact, I would suggest that a large gate to movies and books is lack of life experience. You can't get it from a book. Sometimes your understanding of a book or a movie is actually locked behind you not having had life experiences. There are definitely things where I can see, like, I can't get that because I haven't had this experience. I can't understand what's being transmitted to me. There are things where I've watched it as a kid and I watch it as an adult and it's like, oh, I get it because I lived through this experience and I understand. You have to pick up the tools to engage with media a lot of the time. Maybe a major problem is people who haven't lived. And I haven't lived much. I'm an autist who plays video games. Maybe these people have lived even less and believe that what they've gotten from shows and books is life and that they understand it all, when you cannot get that understanding purely from movies, books, games. You can't get it.
Or then have to kind of like, the best they get is they can make Minecraft Steve black.
Start off by supporting...
What's wrong with that? Also, Minecraft Steve is Hispanic. Is that a problem? Isn't Minecraft Steve canonically Hispanic? No, that refers to the language. You know what I mean. And the character is like a blank. Well, nowadays they have a lot of different characters you can be by default, right? It also is very open in letting you isn't it just a PNG file? It's super easy. It's not you're not making Minecraft Steve black. You can come up with your own entirely. It's just a template you change. It's anything. It's anything you want. It's not making Minecraft Steve black.
Inclusive gamers, creators, and modders. Don't just consume their content, pay them fairly. Subscribe to their Patreon, like, and actually engage with their content so that the almighty algorithm can put it into others' feeds. All of that. It's a capitalist hellscape out there, and we've got to pay to play. But the sting of depleting some of your hard-earned wages can be soothed by ensuring that it actually goes to those who will use it to uplift others and support causes and opportunities for others. Make sure to...
Brother, if you've made something cool and I buy it, use it to feed yourself. Use it to pay your rent. Use it to buy something cool you want. If I wanted it to go to a particular cause, I'd just give it to that cause.
Try a diverse selection of games too. It's not forced diversity or pandering. It's just the real world.
Sometimes it is though. Sometimes it is though, and it's horrendous. This message was never meant to reach me. Do you know how many games I play every year? Hundreds to thousands. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good.
You live in finally being reflected in the fictional worlds that we escape to, or at least try to. It's important to remember that we all exist in echo chambers that reinforce our preconceived notions of the world.
Here's the ad read, right?
And is reflected in our realities as well as our research, in my case. I mean, for example, when I was researching Gamergate, I uncovered a story that I totally forgot about. When a man attacked Paul Pelosi, then Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband. Apparently, the attacker was radicalized by Gamergate.
What?
According to Vice News, which is, as we should know, is an ostensibly left-leaning source. Thankfully, I was able to corroborate that with a more centrist source, despite me not liking it that much, that I wouldn't have even found had it not been for Ground News. Ground News is a website and app developed by a former NASA engineer on a mission to give readers an easy, data-driven, objective way to read the news. Every story comes with a quick visual breakdown of the political bias, factuality, and ownership of the sources reporting, all backed by ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations. Like, look at this story on Gamergate. Right away, you can...
Don't you think they're pretty high odds? It is the Kurzgesagt ad. Yes, Ashred. What do you think are the odds, though? My man mentioned in this, or one of his guests mentioned in this, the research suggesting that when you're presented with facts you disagree with, you dig in more. What are the odds that if you're confronted with evidence that something you think is true is false, couldn't ratings that suggest your interpretation is wrong make you dig in more?
See that this story was reported on by 4 news outlets, and of these 4 outlets,
man who attacked Paul Pelosi says he was radicalized by Gamergate. Wait, is that what he said? Stop. Maybe you're misunderstanding what I'm saying.
Story that I totally forgot about. When a man attacked Paul Pelosi, then Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband. Apparently, the attacker was radicalized by Gamergate.
That's not the headline. Apparently, he was radicalized by Gamergate. I'm going to look at the story. Why wouldn't you go with, he said he was radicalized by Gamergate? DePape, whatever, testified he first was drawn to right-wing conspiracies after learning about Gamergate. Right. So the reporting is, he testified that he was first drawn to right-wing conspiracies after learning about Gamergate. That's what's written here in one of the articles.
Apparently, the attacker was radicalized by Gamergate.
He morphed the story from the man himself claimed he moved on and discovered, right-wing theories after learning about Gamergate. Foreign man in a foreign land has warped that into, apparently, the man who attacked Nancy Pelosi's husband was radicalized by Gamergate. Does he do this on purpose, or does it just happen in his head and he doesn't recognize that he's done it?
According to Vice News, which is, as we should know, is an ostensibly left-leaning source. Thankfully, I was able to corroborate that with a found NASA engineer on a mission to give readers. He comes with a Look at this story on Gamergate. Right away, you can see that this story was reported on by 4 news outlets. And of these 4 outlets, they're all left, which makes sense given it discusses right-wing propaganda. But you could even see the story's factuality score and ownership of the outlets reporting on this story.
Wow. 0% of the sources are independent news. No, guys, I know it's true. I know it's true because 100% of the sources are mixed in factuality. I know it's true because they're 100% mixed in their factuality. Why would you... Dude, I don't even remember how they said they discerned factuality on this website.
Which in this case is owned by...
I feel like a site about whether you can trust news or not having a factuality meter is a massive red flag.
Verizon. Best of all, you can even compare headlines to see how different outlets frame the story. For example, the Huffington Post leads with the right-wing propaganda buzzword, whereas PBS passes it a bit differently and less sensationally. Listen here, the blind spot feature...
Yeah, and what was your your version of a headline? What was your characterization? You went 10 times as sensational as the more sensational option.
Alone is worth getting ground news, because it can single-handedly burst your bubble or your echo chamber by exposing stories that are overrepresented by particular parts of the political spectrum. News outlets don't only inform us about occurrences across the world, they tell us what they believe is important for us to be informed about. So depending on the ownership of the source, you may be missing out on stories that are essential to your edification and even overdosing on op-eds that don't really matter. Go to groundnews.com to grab this 30% discount off the Vantage subscription that gives you unlimited access to all Ground News features. Click the link in the description to exit your echo chamber and give your heads an edification with Ground News. On top right there to get a playlist of vids just like this.
All right, please use, if you want to sign up to Ground News, please use his link. Please use his link. Will comments be on? They are. I actually already knew that. Anytime I tried to have a chat with my bro about how black people are represented in various games, it's always, it's a game, it's not deep. Now I have a 1-hour video essay to validate my opinion. Now what? Very funny, but I also only think it's 40% a joke. I grew up as a black femme in gaming spaces. I grew up as a poor black boy. And let me tell you, it was rough trying to fit in. At the same time, I had my own internalized racism while I was young, so I just went along with the microaggressions in the tabletop role-playing game space. I just went along with the microaggressions. Well, I'm sure one day the people you played with will all offer you a micro-apology. Some of these games completely change the way they treat you as soon as they find out you're a black woman. Gamers! Sorry, I misread. Some of these gamers completely change the way they treat you as soon as they find out you're a black woman. It's crazy how things were fine before that, and suddenly the racism comes out. Yeah, this guy's been misled. I also wanted to say I had no idea there was a controversy about Miles' swinging style. There wasn't. There was a controversy over the terminology used by that game journalist. Right? Apparently it's a common thing that children can identify black people by how they breathe, is what I'm learning from this comment. Oh, someone pointed out the Ellie issue. Oh no. No likes. If you do something without thinking, it's because you're used to doing it. Say it again! Say it again! Have you guys ever put something in the fridge that doesn't go in the fridge? Have you ever absent-mindedly put something in the fridge without thinking? Of course. Bunny, that's because you're used to doing it. Did you know? Guys, I put the bread in the fridge because I'm used to doing it. I've never done it before, but I did it because I'm used to doing it, because I didn't think about doing it. As a black female simmer, thank you for including Ebonics Sims. Oh my god. Okay, do we read this one? Let's dive in. The part near the end about character creation and selection options and how black people have taken to needing to literally go outside of the game to modify it so they can feel like they can accurately represent themselves really stuck out to me. Does any other kind of person see modding as like a burden unless it's to fix bugs? I'm not black, I'm Hispanic, Latino, and even then I sometimes struggle to make characters that can look like me in some of these games. I know that that's part of the reason why I've just given up on ever trying to make someone who looks like me. Character creation is already something I spend hours on. Would rather not spend even longer trying to... This is illness. Wait, they want the mods because, like, they're like a vampire counting rice grains? If you put a character creator in front of them, they're just fucking stuck trying to make a photorealistic copy of themselves? Bizarre. Also, I have to note as well. Remember right at the start there was mention that fighting games are very popular with black people, very popular with black people, at least if you're looking at the US. You don't get a lot of customization in fighting games. You don't get a lot at all. What if I suggested very few of the black people who are playing fighting games look like, say, DJ, and the character choice is varied? Why is it that black people can gravitate towards a game We are absolutely not going to have someone who looks like you. But at the same time, it's so important to have someone in the game who looks like you and is like you. How many black people who play Eddie do you think can do capoeira in real life, even the drills, even like the dance version? For white children, racism is a bonding practice. Too real and accurate. What the f do you mean? Forced diversity. Like, I swear everyone who actually claims that has never gone outside. Depends where they live. Depends where they live, brother. Some would call diversity in certain places in real life forced as well. I mean, isn't integration technically forced diversity? No. Okay, let's see what this is. My first encounter with nerd racism was in an anime roleplay chat room. Dude was mad his GF left him for a brother, and he got mad, then threatened to me when he learned I was black. I was in middle school. He likes that. He likes the cuckoldry fantasy in his comments. This is essential viewing for gamers, especially those who think games have been woke. What have been? Another extremely detailed and nuanced analysis. Extremely detailed except for the part where they speak in extreme generalities and never explain particular examples, and also get everyone's names wrong and can't spell their sources correctly. You know. Yo, this comment is going to pop off. This comment is going to be hot. I've read just the first few words. I had a feeling Gamergate was going to be cited as a revelatory moment for this phenomena. I remember, when it happened, how effective the PSYOP was in giving a fully deliberate bigotry movement and harassment campaign plausible deniability. How even notable figures in online nerd spaces either equivocated or outright supported the monstrous endeavor. It did not start with Gamergate. It certainly didn't end with it. But the addition of online hate culture to the existing baggage gaming had already accumulated certainly accelerated horrors that were already there, and Gamergate took what had been bubbling as an undercurrent and made it the dominant mainstream. What the f*** is that? Levia Dragon 99. I see. Wait. What is this? I was just like, this seems like the kind of woman whose video you would like. Is the Economy Mad at Us by Mia Mulder. This is their favorites, by the way. The Dangers of Homeopathy. Oh, thank you. What is a groomer? A man play... Oh, we have Philosophy Tube. We have anime. We have anime and Philosophy Tube. Ladies and gentlemen, we got them. I love the way you format your videos. What, like a fever dream? Your editing is some of the best I've ever seen on this website. What an amazing video. People aren't saying all that much. Holy God. This comment has got to be good, right? This is so validating as a black girl growing up during Gamergate. This happened during high school for me. I was a nerdy kid who liked anime and comics and games, who never felt safe or accepted in these spaces. I would go to a comic store and feel all those white men's eyes on me, the way they would side-eye me when I would enter these spaces. I liked PewDiePie. I was watching his videos religiously. Until that N-word scandal. I remember looking around, feeling crazy because it did not make sense to me. Swathes of white boys telling you that you're wrong for thinking he was racist, like, f*** off. What, like they found your Twitter account and then showed up in real life? To just tell you you're... What do you mean swathes of white boys telling you you're wrong? I learned to keep my mouth shut. To avoid those kind of co-op games. Maybe they were just telling you to... talking about PewDiePie if this was happening in co-op games. I'm not good at fighting games, so I just avoided them. That's how you be bad at fighting games. Yes. I didn't want to deal with guys calling me slurs and bullying me when I can't keep up. But you do want to talk to them. With the exception of Mortal Kombat 11, because I couldn't turn off the voice chat, I've never talked to a fighting game opponent of mine. Unless I've talked to them and then we decided to play. I've never talked to someone I've played against. See, this is what I was talking about. So this comment goes, fun fact, exaggerated swagger of a black teen was written by a black person. In the video, they flicker the author on just for a second, but then they leave it. I feel like I got the impression that it was going to mislead people, deliberately or otherwise. I felt that the presentation was very misleading, and this person says, I guess he was. Still seems like a weird thing to say. Yeah, people are surprised that it was written by a black person, which in a story where you're talking about race and how important that is and how people of different races have different perspectives, maybe when you're interrogating what's said by a person about a black character and trying to wonder, why would they use this terminology? Why would they use this terminology? Curious. I bet a lot of people are going to assume a white person said that. The way the video is presented, a lot of people, thousands and thousands of these people, I bet, wouldn't have caught the flicker of the author's face. And they're going to think that it was a white person and not know what's happening. To be fair, though, I'm willing to accept that happening, because the trade-off is this video also causes thousands and thousands of people to believe that there's a feminist called Arnita Sarkeesian. It's the misinformation trade-off. It's fine. Sorry, wait. I loved this video. I tried explaining to someone why I wasn't going to play Baldur's Gate 3, and they couldn't see why them coding racism into the game was not cool or fun. This video really is a really good way to open the conversation up and show how it is the continuation of a cycle. Right. Being in the Tekken community, I 1000% felt this video. Thank you for making this. Do you by any chance main the black American breakdancer Eddie Gordo? Oh my god. Thank you for making this video. That's all. I wish others around me would spend the time to consume these videos and other media like it to learn, but for now I can at least educate myself to the best of my ability. Well, ladies and gents, if you can believe it, this brings us up to just about 10 to 11. You want to guess a couple games? Look at this Twitter drama. That's going to be yours. It looks like a city thing, like a city builder. That's a really solid first. Oh, it's so solid. In fact, it's crystallized. It's crystal clear. Yo, Siffy, there are so many people watching. There are so many people watching things that are obviously a polemic and don't brand themselves otherwise. Who'll be like, wow, I'm learning. That always made me feel really uncomfortable. When you'd get the kids watching your videos and going, wow, I'm really educating myself with this. And it's like, what the f*** do you mean? I'm like arguing. You're meant to engage with it. You're not meant to just go, yes, this is correct and part of my understanding of the world now. Like, oh, what are you doing, kid? Jesus Christ. That's not education, that's rhetoric. No! You ate the whole jar! What have I done? Well, ladies and gents, I hope you had a good time, because that is all. But only until tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow with more gaming, perhaps another video to watch, who knows. A much shorter one. I knew that video would be a banger, so I was happy to do a long one and, take up a bunch of time,